Friday, good people. It's good to see ya. How's everyone doing today? Welcome to Mastermind Academy, another episode of Mastermind Academy. Sorry, I'm a minute late. Just getting off of some calls and getting off of doing some work and, figuring out some stuff. Now I'm trying to get my whole setup together, but it's good to see you all. How's everyone doing today? What's up, Laylar? You were first today. Congratulations. That's dope. I'm super excited about that. I also played with it a little bit yesterday as well. I'm interested to see what people are able to do with it. For anyone who was not here last night, we built together our own Pokemon Yeet version. Okay, so we yeeted together a Pokemon game using object-oriented programming. It was wacky, but it was fun. Just getting some seat time with some classes. What's up, Uber King Kong? You weren't first, unfortunately. Maisie, you're third. I think you've been third every single time. It's good to see you. First, since I don't get to see what chat happened before we join. Correct. Yeah. So I can always see who's first because my chat starts up live as soon as I hit the stream button. So yeah, it was Laylar today. Congratulations. What's up, Seed of Arson? We got started a minute late, but it's how it's gonna be sometimes. Anyone know what CFTs there are? Any resources you can point me to? Is that for capture the flags? CTFs, I don't know why I said CFTs. Okay, that's what it says. So either you were talking about capture the flags or you're talking about CloudFormation templates. I'm not sure which ones you were doing. No, CFT, I'm here, web admin telling me I have to update the CFT before I have to start Tomcat. Yeah, so CloudFormation template. We did it, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, CloudFormation templates aren't fun. Some resources to them, I can point you to the CloudFormation documentation, but that's about it. There's not a lot of great resources on CloudFormation, to be honest, or at least not that I find super useful. AWS does have a GitHub with some examples that tend to be kind of useful, but if you need that, let me know. AWS, why? Yeah, I mean, because Horizons is literally a journey into cloud computing with AWS, and that is why we are using AWS. It's got the biggest market share, so it's a good thing to know. It's a good thing to know. Amazon bad server. I mean, yes, sure. What's up, Red? About to finish job hunt since moving to DevOps and currently placed 2 years ago. Any good tips for DevOps managers? Any good tips DevOps managers want to hear? Well, that's an interesting question. I don't think that because everywhere is practicing DevOps differently. Everyone has a different idea of what they want to see and what they want to know. I think my advice in going into those discussions is, again, to do your best to not take over the conversation, but to lead the conversation with the things that you do know. Don't wait for them to reach out to ask you about specific things so that you end up with your back against the wall and you're not confident anymore because they're asking you about things that you don't know. Really spend some time getting comfortable talking about the things that you feel confident to talk about and that you just like to talk about, something that you can, pass along a little passion when you're talking about it. Other than that, I concepts that I think are valuable to touch are cloud and containers, to be 100% honest. Cloud, containers, and CI is kind of where it's at, but yeah, I don't have any silver bullet of an answer for that. You just go and be yourself and talk about what you know. Be confident about what you know. Don't lie about what you don't. But yeah. All right, so tonight, what are we doing tonight? Tonight we are doing security in the cloud. We're gonna be learning about some of the different security offerings Amazon has in the cloud and some of the security practices you can take on to make sure that you are doing things as safely as possible. Yeah, as safely as possible. And then we're gonna do a dive into the AWS well-architected framework, and we're gonna talk about those white papers. We're gonna talk about what those things are. And so I think that part is going to be the interesting piece of the night. I think this first security part should be fairly straightforward, some good information, touching on some services. But I think what going over the well-architected framework does is it's going to thrust those of you who are brand new to the cloud, that are brand new to all of this stuff. What it's going to do is it's going to thrust you into some of the theory and practices of what you want, of how you want to use it. So we've been focusing on learning services and focusing on learning different specific concepts within the cloud. But today we're going to but the well-architected framework is going to allow us to dive a little deeper. Should I pull up the thing so I can monitor this? It's going to allow us to dive into what you do with the cloud and how you do things with the cloud a little bit better. And you know, it should provide you a little more insight. It's going to dive into things that we're learning in pipelines. So those DevOps and SRE concepts, you're going to learn a little bit more about security, things like that. So yeah, it's going to be dope. Network security seems very boring. Very glad you're walking us through some of it rather than getting started alone. Yeah. So I agree. Security is certainly not my passion, but it's very, very important, and it makes a ton of money. And so there is network security. We can talk through some of the NetSec stuff. I think we're also going to touch on like some VPC stuff tonight, which we haven't touched on yet, but not really needed for the Certified Cloud Practitioner exams. But yeah, we'll touch on that. So I do have some slides for you tonight. I think I have slides. Let's see. I feel like I do. Yeah, we got some security slides that exist that I'll share, and I'll also throw this in Google Classroom because I don't think I dropped these in the Google Classroom, but I'll check in case you want them. This has some extra stuff on here that we've already learned, but I want to make sure that you are combining all these things together. The things that we already learned, we'll kind of gloss over and just read over, but I want to make sure that you understand the stack of security tools and the suite of security tools that you have available to you as you're going through some of this stuff. Today's gonna be a little bit boring in comparison to other days. Let me do this. The reason why is because there's not a lot to do hands-on tonight. There's again a lot more theory. We're gonna learn about the services. We can click on them, we can see them, but there's not gonna be a ton we can do with the services. And then once we get to the well-architected framework, there's gonna be a lot of, again, talking through these things, but not so much hands-on stuff. Unfortunately, I know it sucks after we've done a couple weeks of pretty fun things. Yeah, yay, boy, you know, it is what it is. These are still very, very important things for you to know. And they really will help you create better solutions in the cloud and be able to, you know, do some cool things. What's up, Hikaroshi? It's good to see you as well. What's up, Warp 10? Let me edit. Slides. There we go. So now y'all can get it with slides if you need it. So let's get straight into it. If we can give ourselves some time back, I would love for us to be able to give ourselves some time back, but let's talk about it. Security inside of AWS. First off, let me make sure y'all can, okay, y'all got a little sound in the background tonight. Yesterday, we streamed that whole time and there was no music playing for you all. It was playing for me. I'm sorry about that. If you are someone who's grown accustomed to the music, I'm sorry also if you're someone who preferred it without the music, and you know, now we're back to the music. You know, it's there. I'll keep it where it is right now. But security in AWS, locks and keys, let's make sure we know what we are doing. So we talked about this on day one, I believe. I'm pretty sure we talked about this on the first day, but the shared responsibility model and understanding where the responsibility lies for security in and of the cloud. So we're in this together, partner. We talked about this. Security and compliance are extremely important, and it's a joint role. It's a joint job between both of you. This paradigm will get asked about on some of the exams about who has, you know, whose responsibility it is to do certain things. So it is important for you to understand this. Remember, the AWS is responsible for security of the cloud, okay? So of the things that support the cloud, the facilities, the software that they've created to allow you to be able to get services on demand, the APIs that are running, things like that, hardware and networks that make up their global infrastructure. So not only those exact things, but also the physical data centers and things, they are securing those things. They have guards. I'm sure they have armed guards. I'm sure they have lots of layers of physical protection, but as well as, you know, making sure these things are up to date. These things are, you know, routed properly and set up in a way that best presents a secure framework for you. So of the cloud, AWS is of the cloud, you are responsible for security inside of the cloud. So you're responsible for everything that goes on, not everything that goes on, but most things that go on inside of the cloud. Think your operating system, applications, software access, and networks that are used by your services. So once you are utilizing the cloud, it is up to you. That got loud for some reason. It's up to you to make sure that things are good to go. AWS is going to rent these things out to you. It's kind of like if you were going to go rent a car from, you know, you're going to go rent a car from Enterprise, is Enterprise still around, or did everybody go belly up in the pandemic? Enterprise, you go rent a car from them, and yeah, you know, while they have it, everything's good. They're keeping everything safe. You know, they got all the paperwork, all that's good. But when it's in your possession, once you're renting it, you got to make sure that, you know, when you return it, while you're utilizing it, you can't mess up the seats. You can't, you know, you got to, if someone breaks into it, you got to handle all the police reports. You got to, while it's in your possession, you got to make sure you take care of that thing. And the cloud is similar in that way. So everything you have set up, you need to make sure that your applications are secure. You need to make sure that you are updating and keeping your operating system patched, and making sure that your networks aren't allowing anyone to get in and out. That's where, you know, that's where the split is. So Amazon is of the cloud. You are responsible for security in the cloud. All right. What's up, Unique ID? AI Luna, good to see you as well. What's up, Dream Traveling? Greetings from Greece. Welcome. It's good to have you here. Greetings from Baltimore, Maryland. Enterprise still around. Dope. Who just filed for bankruptcy? Was it Hertz? One of the big players in the rental space went belly up, unfortunately. Hopefully they're you know, maybe it was only what chapter is chapter 13, the one where you don't actually like go completely out of business. You just lose all your debts and start over, kind of, but not really. I don't know. I don't really know. But there we go. Make sure you know that there's this little chart in here that you can reference, which is pretty helpful to kind of understand where those roles and responsibilities lie. You can't just be willy-nilly with everything. You know, you do have to do your due diligence and understanding where you're going to have to implement the security at. Excuse me a lot. Now I'm looking up crypto. Hey, you know, crypto. We should dive into crypto. I know, unfortunately, I know more about crypto in the technical sense than I do in the investment sense. I have very little crypto. I have some Dogecoin. I've got some Bitcoin, but not much at all. But that's dope. You know, hey, it's all about the constant process of learning. What's up, Frog Alberts? Absolutely, I appreciate that. Yeah, come on through. Have a good time. Hertz was selling their cars. Maybe they got some. I wonder if they got any cool deals around. I don't need any cars, but you know, it's always fun looking at cars. Okay, so that's great. OSI model. We don't need to cover the OSI model, but no, we don't need. We've already covered the OSI model. This is part of the networking portion of this. We don't need to do that. Let's talk about some of the things that you need to secure yourself from. I think when we talk about security, when we talk about network and application security, I think that's where people's brains go first, is network and application security, and thinking about people getting in to steal your data. That is something that you have to worry about. You know, you have to keep people from getting into your account itself, but you also have to make sure your applications don't have any vulnerabilities where people can exploit things to get in to be able to take data. Because that's really what, and you know, these hackers are attempting to do. They're trying to get in to steal your information, or to make it so that you cannot serve the content and the information that you need to serve. One of the ways of doing this is something called Ddos. Okay, this is something very, very important to know about and to be aware of. Ddos stands for a distributed denial of service attack. And it's basically where a bunch of computers make lots of real requests. So this isn't some kind of fancy weird thing. It is simply people using the internet, using systems to use the internet as intended, and they make a bunch of legitimate requests to your website or to your system, and it basically overloads your servers, rendering them inaccessible. All right, so this is a distributed denial of service attack. A DDoS attack is you know, that is when someone wants to do it maliciously. But whenever we talk about your servers not being able to scale or to handle a certain amount of load, this is essentially the same thing that is happening. If too many people attempt to gather information from your computer and it's not able to fill those requests, what will end up happening is either only a portion of those requests will be served, or the system will be rendered useless. It'll be rendered, it'll be set up now in a way where it can't serve anything because it's overloaded with requests. And people do this. This is a super common thing, and it's something that you absolutely need to be worried about. It also happens by accident a lot. One of the first examples I gave was if we were, if you were to set up a company and you were going to end up on the, the Steve Harvey show, I don't know, some talk show. I don't even know what talk show hosts are out there nowadays. But if you were to end up on one of them and your company wasn't ready for the amount of traffic you were about to get, it could turn them off to your company, because when they got there, they get all kinds of errors and things, and it'd be pretty whack. This happens all the time on Reddit. It's called the Reddit hug of death, and Reddit will very nicely try to promote your stuff, and someone will make a post, it'll get super popular, and people will go to visit your site, and if you can't handle that demand or that load, the site will go down. But DDoS, on the other hand, is people are trying to harm you when they do a DDoS attack. A lot of times they put bots. There's things called botnets, and they will plant them on people's computers all around the world. And then at the time which they're ready, they will activate these bots, and they'll all make requests to your own, to whatever system they want you to make the request to, and it can cause it to go down. There's some tools you can use to kind of do this yourself and to kind of play around with it. Don't do this, but there's what is it? Low orbit ion cannon or something like that. It's like a tool. What is it? Orbital ion cannon. It's something like, yeah, low orbit ion cannon. I got it right the first time. It's a tool you can use. You can get in trouble for this, so just be careful with the things you are doing. Hey, but met you at the O'Reilly conference. Oh, dope. It sucks that we can't, hopefully we can get back out to some conferences soon. Sounds like, glad to see you're doing well. I appreciate that, Jimbo. Thanks so much. I really, it sucks because I was actually super excited I had my whole conference lineup set up for 2020, and then we couldn't go to any of it. It sucks. Pokemon Go got DDoS. I mean, they've probably been DDoS a lot. Everyone's been DDoS a bunch of times, but the reason why we're talking about this as a part of security is because this can cause lots of issues. It also can open up the door to other exploits. But Amazon has ways to be able to stop this, has ways for you to be able to mitigate these things. So some people try to mitigate DDoS attacks by simply scaling to meet the demand, which can be fine because depending on how big the attack is, but it can be impractical. It can be very costly to do so. It can be time consuming as well. AWS Shield is something that you can get from AWS, which can help stop this. So DDoS protection, you get standard protection for free with CloudFront or Route 53. So you don't even know you're getting it, but if you're using Route 53 and CloudFront, you can get this, you get this standard, okay? It is there, it's available, and it helps mitigate rapid attacks, these big large scale attacks to your systems. But you can upgrade to a more advanced protection at $3K a month, okay? Now, this $3K a month, I wanna say, could be wrong here, I need to go look this up again, but I'm pretty sure you have to also commit to, I think, a year. So you're paying $3K a month, but I think you have to commit to a year, and it has to be a year. So if you start it up, you got to keep it there. And this works on layer 3 and layer 4. So it works on both the network layer and the transport layer of the OSI model. And so this is where it stops things. This is where it stops information. This is where it handles all those things. I don't know exactly how it works. I do know that it works well. My last project that I worked on, we actually used AWS Shield when everything started going crazy with COVID, because we were servicing business loans, and it works. It works well. It happens automatically for you. You also get like a team who will help you do some things, and it's also kind of a bit of a suite of tools as well. So AWS Shield is pretty helpful if you are someone you're trying to create solutions and you're worried about DDoS attacks, and that's something that your company is worried about. Know that if you decide to use CloudFront, we talked about that CDN service that they have, you get that for free. So that's really helpful. They have this shield in front of their stuff. And you might say, why would they give you, this big expensive service for free? Because, they know they run so much of the internet. They know they want to be able to ensure that your users have a good experience so that you can continue to use their products. And so they basically have to give you some of this for free, because this happens so much. DDoSing is extremely, extremely common. What's up, Juice? How you doing today? Shout out to Juicebox Hero. definitely go give her a follow. Let me see if I can, there we go. Xbox Hero. What conventions do I go to? So I really do like the O'Reilly conferences because I find that they're the most practical conferences that I've been to. So O'Reilly has a bunch of them, but the O'Reilly Software Architecture Conference was really great. I usually go to one cloud conference, usually it's AWS, but I was trying to go to, what was Microsoft, what's their cloud one? Ignite or something like that. I want to go to one of those. And I was really trying to get out to HashiConf in 2020, which is the HashiCorp conference, which is really great. They do a lot of infrastructure stuff. And I try to get out to one dev conference a year. I usually go to whatever one's closest to me. So I went to, they usually run GopherCon, not the big GopherCon. I want to go to GopherCon, which I did go to GopherCon this year, but it was virtual. But they have like a smaller Go conference here in like DC, Virginia. And so I go to that. So yeah, I mean, I would 1000% when TwitchCon opens back up, I'm definitely going to TwitchCon. I spend a lot of time on Twitch and like all sections of Twitch. I spend a lot of time here, but 100%, I will, when it opens back up, I will be there. The very first TwitchCon that where we can meet all back in person, I will definitely head out to one. I appreciate that. The toxic one, I thank you. Amazing Speak. I'm working on it. You know, I gotta, sometimes my brain works faster than my mouth does, and like I try to make them meet in the middle, and I've gotten better. I've definitely gotten better at it, but I still talk really fast. I'm trying to figure out how to be a better public speaker. I'm trying to do more speaking things. And again, I told the people yesterday for Pokemon, if anyone knows anyone who does any type of voice acting work, my only goal, I don't want to be a voice actor. Well, I don't want to create a career out of being a voice actor, but I would love to voice a villain in some, but it's gotta be, you know, I don't like to do things small over. It can't be, you know, I appreciate you all, but it can't be a little project for school or something like that. I need a AAA, I need a AAA movie, okay? I need a blockbuster movie. I don't wanna have to train it all. I wanna walk through the doors and they say, we're gonna use whatever you give us. I know it won't happen, but if you put it out in the atmosphere, you know, you never know what you can create, all right? I wanna be a villain, I wanna, you know, come on. I wanna do some voice work as a villain. It'd be fun, I think. I hope it would be fun. Oh, Juice, for sure, 100%. Let me know. I won't tell anyone, and just everyone look away. No one saw Juice's message. We covered it, Juice. No one knows about it. What's up, White Wolf? In a meeting right now. I know, happy Friday. That kind of sucks. Dope. You know, we're just, you know, today's good because it's very conversational today. Be a tad bit, hey, I can work on that. I can be a tad bit more articulate, okay? I'll get it. I'll do it. If you tell me to do it, I'll do it. What's up, silly boy? All right, so that's Aws Shield, helps you with DDoS protection. Cool. So now we get into the other layers of the stack, of the OSI model, as well as other layers of security that you have. Also, well, I think we're gonna cover some of this stuff, but we'll also go back and cover some of the things that we already know about. But WAF. WAF is cool. It's a web application firewall, and this helps specifically protect your web apps from very common exploits, okay? From things like SQL injections and X-site scripting, cross-site scripting, some of the common ways of exploiting sites, web application firewalls will help you with, okay? They'll help you do this. Operates on layer 7. It makes sense that it operates on layer 7. Why? Mr. the Primogen, welcome to the channel. Coming in hot with a fat raid of 214 people. Everyone, please come on in and get comfortable. Today, we are, you know, you probably came from a super crazy, fun, exciting Friday stream with the Primogen. I don't know what y'all were doing today, but I know it was fun. I know it was exciting. Today, we are learning about something a little less fun. We are in the middle, and by in the middle, I mean at the very end of Horizons. It's an 8-part series. I kind of dive into cloud computing with Amazon Web Services. You know, we are on part 7 of 8, and today we're going to be learning about security within AWS, as well as diving into the AWS well-architected framework. So today is a little less hands-on technical and a little more theory, a little more best practices and understanding how you're supposed to do things. But welcome everyone. So I really love this message deleted thing. I love it. Welcome everyone. Way too many names, way too many follows. What's up, Mano? Welcome. Shim, welcome. What's up, Mark? Good to have you. Thank you so much for the follows, everybody. You know, it's just too many people. There's a lot of people. It's Glenn on Twitch. Welcome, Glenn on Twitch and O-Link, and you know, I appreciate that. And Prime, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. 10 months. That's love right there. I truly can't keep up. Amazing. This is phenomenal. So many deleted messages. I wish that you know, I wish you didn't delete them. I wish I could see them, and I wish I could see them. But it's good to see you. Let me, you know, now I'll give you the shout out. Now that everything is calmed down a little bit and people can see your name, a lot of people here are probably already following Mr. Primogen. Let me see. Let's type it again. But you all know what he's about. You all know he's the Vim champion, the software champion. Does a lot of amazing things. Got to be one of the most entertaining channels here on Twitch, especially in the science and tech section. 100%. It's pretty dope. What's up, Anacodes? Good to see you. What's up, everybody? It's dope. But please give Prime a follow. I tell you, you will not be disappointed. You really won't be disappointed. All right. Whoo. I mean, you know, 100%. So one thing I haven't been doing, I used to always, I did used to always wake up middle of the night looking for a snack, you know, but I've been really good at not doing that. I sleep pretty much through the night now, but it's probably because I wake up super early and go to bed super late. So I don't really have time to do it. All right. Mastermind 130 messages. You ready here first? You know, look, I won't put it out over the airwaves, but you know, whatever I receive is what I receive. It's all good. Do you like informal sessions like these? Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Always. The informational sessions like these, I do, because it allows you to talk about it a little bit more, talk about these things a little bit more. My issue with it is being able to contextualize the things like the well-architected framework. When we get into that, we're going to spend a lot of time having to dive into lots of other concepts to make sure that we understand what they're saying here, what they're talking about, understanding what we're trying to architect well, and why the things that they're telling us to do mean that it might be architected well. And, you know, I think it's helpful. We're usually informational, but this one's a little less hands-on, like I said. So, you know, it's all good. All right, so WAF, Web Application Firewall, is good. This is good. The good thing about the WAF is it puts in some, it's a whole separate service. It puts in some, it allows you to manage rules right up front. The configuration of it can be a bit complicated, and it is very difficult to troubleshoot. So you create this firewall, it's this big service. You set it in front of basically usually you set it in front of your CloudFront, and you can have a global WAF, you can have regional WAFs, so WAFs that only do things per region or globally, and you put in these rules that are very granular. You can get very granular with them. You can stop super specific things from super specific places, but it is difficult to, it's very difficult to know what's going to happen when you enact one of these rules. And a lot of times you're waiting for feedback from different places to see if it worked how you wanted it to work. And then it takes time to implement a new rule. But you know, it is what it is. It's a good tool. You likely will never use this for smaller projects. This is usually for more enterprise level applications. I don't know the cost of WAF. They won't ask you this. They won't ask you any WAF cost questions. Well, at least I've never seen a WAF cost question. But let's see. Web application firewall. Let's see. I don't know what the pricing is. I would like to know what the pricing is for WAF. Yeah, see, this is the problem. Dorian, on an amazing Friday, you came in and you just showed so much love. That my heart is heavy. Well, it's full, not heavy. My heart is full, therefore heavy because it's full, okay? But Dorian, thank you so much for the gifted subs. Thank you so much for continuously supporting the channel. That's love right there. I don't know that you're appreciated. Thank you so much for helping us with the war on advertisements. Everyone who received a sub, please thank Dorian from the bottom of your heart, the very bottom, all the way to the top of your heart. Your heart is located right on on the left. On the left, it's located starting here down to here, and just make sure you're taking all of that space and you are thanking Dorian with all that energy. You know, I love it. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. What's up, Mr. Demon Wolf? Good to see you as well. One good example of Wava's Cloudflare is free one as well. So Cloudflare is a content delivery network, and it does have some layers of firewall. But yeah, Cloudflare is a CDN though. This WAF works a little bit differently than that works. So you can stick this WAF in front of your CDN, but this is why people don't use it a lot. So you set up these ACLs, these access control lists, and then in the access control list you can have these rules, and they're pretty expensive. Okay, I mean, they may not look like that expensive, but a lot of times you're gonna have a lot of rules, or you probably will have a lot of rules. And so, you know, $1 per rule per month is kind of expensive. Different ACLs, $5 a month. It can add up depending on how your setup is. You generally are going to use, you have to use a different web application firewall per CloudFront. So maybe per environment, depending on the way that you have it set up. But yeah. See, you almost set me up, Mr. Demon Wolf. I was about to, so you're saying WAP, I don't know what WAP is. And I want to say WAP, but like I was just about to Google what is WAP, but I'm not doing, you know, I'm culturally aware, okay, not to Google that. Okay, it's WF, Web Application Firewall. See, you almost set me up there, Mr. Demon Wolf. But yeah, Cloudflare probably has, it has some firewall capabilities, but Cloudflare's main product is their CDN. Yeah, it's expensive. Like I said, that's why I said you probably will never use it for a personal project. Usually this is more for your enterprise applications and for kind of specific needs. I've been doing WAF the whole time. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know if he's trying to set me up. I don't know if he's trying to, you know, I don't know. Okay. You almost got me to Google it because I was really wondering, like, if this, I was like, web application protocol. I don't know. It's like a physics class. I kept thinking about electric field instead of electric fields. That'll do it. Yeah. I mean, you know, it makes sense. Unless it's per ACL. Yeah. So per ACL, per rule in these ACLs, you can have multiple rules here. Well, you can have multiple rules, and then the web ACLs, I mean, you can have multiple web ACLs as well. It gets kind of interesting. We can hop into WAF in a little bit and look at it. I'm probably not going to, I'll spin one up after we're done with this, just so you can see what it looks like. But yeah, 60 cents per 1 million requests. You know, I mean, that could be a ton, or I mean, that could be plenty for you, or it could be basically none. Some people's, I've worked on applications where a single request to a website, because of the way they had things routed, would every one request would result in around 35 total requests through CloudFront at least. And very interesting setup. Yeah, very interesting setup. So you got to be careful with some stuff like that when you're getting that many, like the way that you have it set up, you might have things kind of going back and forth, but it's pretty interesting. All right, so that's WAF. You don't, again, for right now, where we are with learning AWS, you don't need to know a ton about it. I just want you to know that there is an application firewall that you can use through Amazon, and it's called WAF, Web Application Firewall, and it helps you protect from your web apps themselves from common vulnerabilities. So this doesn't work like this doesn't work quite the same way as your DDoS protection does, where it works on a completely different layer, and it's actually protecting against different things. It's not searching out for these exploits. It is searching out for these massive number of requests and doing some rate limiting and doing all kinds of fancy stuff to be able to help protect your site. Okay, so we can cover layer 3 and layer 4 with some DDoS protection, maybe. We get some of that for free, remember, with using CloudFront or through Route 53. Web Application Firewall allows us to protect layer 7 pretty well. But we haven't talked about protection from the account level itself and to access directly to our resources inside Amazon. And we talked about IAM already, but this is how you would do this. We can't talk about security at all without speaking a little bit more about IAM and identity and access management. Like I told you when we first dove into it, there are jobs where you only manage and deal with identity and access management. That doesn't mean you're only dealing with IAM and AWS, but this concept of managing access, who gets access to what, how, for how long, when, things like that is a big deal. And what I want to talk to you about right now is the rule of least privilege. We're going to talk about this a bunch tonight. It's going to come up a few different times, so I want to share it with you. And it's simple. You only give resource access to things essential for it to perform its job. So rather than providing someone or something access to everything or to more than they need, you only give these things access to the things that are essential for it to perform its job. So if I have a server, if I have an EC2 instance that all it's there to do is to all it does is to take in data from an S3 bucket, from one S3 bucket, process that data and put it into another S3 bucket. The only thing that we want to do is give that resource access to those S3 buckets, but not even just to give access to those S3 buckets. We want to say, if we're pulling from, here we go. Let me draw you a little picture here. Okay, let's say we have this little EC2 instance right here. And it's running a little job, and it pulls from bucket 1 over here. It gets the data, it gets raw data from here. Maybe somebody else from outside of here pushes some data into S3. EC2 pulls that down. It does some processing right here. Whatever. That was bad. But then it puts it up into another S3 bucket. Okay, these are different S3 buckets. What you want to do is give it least privilege. So not only do we want to give it only access to this S3 bucket, but not just all access. Remember, I said IAM rules can be very, very granular. We can control not only what has access to what, but also what actions it could perform there. So maybe we'd only have, so here it would probably be something like get object. And so we'd say, hey, EC2 instance, all you have access to do is to pull data from over here, and all you have access over here is to put data over here. So there's a put object action that you can perform, and so we break it down to that too. So now we wouldn't be able to, from this EC2 instance, we would not be allowed to push data over here. We would never be allowed to push data to here because we didn't give it access to. So only give it the tools, only give it the accessibility to be able to perform its job. So as a user, let's say we're setting up dev teams. Let's say we're setting up a role. Remember those groups. Let's say we're setting up a group. A group will allow us to manage the roles, the policies for a collection of users or a collection of resources, IAM users, whatever it may be. These get tough to do from scratch. These get really tough to do because it's very time consuming. And so what you want to do is you want to start from the ground up. You want to say, hey, what are they going to need access to? If we're building a brand new, let's say we're building a brand new piece of infrastructure, and we know that we're going to need, some EC2 instances. We're going to need an RDS database, and that's whack. We need an RDS database. We need EFS or something like that. But not only do we, so maybe when we create this developers group, what access are they going to need? Do they need to be able to provision EC2? maybe not. Are we building these things through a CI process? Maybe we actually don't need to give them that kind of access at all. Maybe they only need access to get information about EC2 instances. Maybe they only need access to destroy EC2 instances. I don't know. But you want to make sure that, so we would say we would give them some EC2 information that would have things like, by default, they wouldn't have anything. And we can say, all right, cool. We'll allow them to provision. We can say, okay, they can provision an instance, so they can create one, but they can't delete any. Maybe they can't delete, but maybe they can also, just get information as well. And that's all they have from this. And we say, hey, what do they need from RDS? Maybe from RDS, all they need to do is connect to it. So maybe we don't need to give them actual access directly to the resource itself. Maybe we just give them, their connection string that they need to access. Who knows? Who knows what we would want to do with that? But rule of least privilege: only give the people what they need and nothing more. Not the people, even the resources and the systems. This gets very complicated. This gets very annoying. It also often, it slows down development a lot because it can be very tough to know exactly what an application needs from another service or another resource. It can be kind of weird sometimes. It can be very annoying, but it's very, very important. Very, very important. And you should think about this with everything inside of AWS. Now, one of the reasons why all of these systems are gonna begin to become inherently insecure is because, again, people get really lazy with this. People get very lazy with this because of how time consuming it can be. And they start to give everything access to everything. Let me give you an example, because I've seen this happen before. I saw someone who went through a workshop to set up an EC2 instance, and they did like a little project. They did a project where they were doing some stuff with, I want to say they were doing some stuff with like the instance, and they were doing some stuff with like step functions, and doing some stuff with Lambda and a bunch of other things. It was like a little workshop, but they didn't want to, they were having trouble with making sure their stuff could run, could have access. And so they opened up access. They added a role to the EC2 instance that could do anything. It basically gave it administrator access. Someone got into gained access to this person's EC2 instance. And because it had a role that could do everything, it allowed someone to basically provision gigantic EC2 instances that were the P series that were used for graphics processing. And the person was trying to mine Bitcoin. They were trying to mine crypto. And they didn't realize for a little while, they didn't have to pay anything. Amazon will work it out with you most likely. But, because they were able to gain access to that EC2 instance, they had access to do whatever, because the EC2 instance had the ability to submit commands to the Amazon API to be able to build whatever it wanted to build. And that is very problematic. It happens much more than you think. Just be very careful with what you are doing. Very annoying, but rule of least privilege. Very simple concept. Just give things access to what they need access to. That's it. It's like when someone is programming and giving public access to every variable, right? Could be, yeah, I mean, could be. It is like that. I think it's a little less, generally those variables aren't going to cost you lots of money. So, not quite as serious, but yeah, you're right. All right. So we already dove into IAM a fair amount. We will touch it again tonight, probably, but that's all you need to know about that. Just rule of least privilege is what you want to follow. Now, AWS also has other tools that will allow you to do some security related items. Inspector is a really good one. I've only used Inspector once, but it is security scanning and compliance. All right, so for applications deployed in AWS, but what's compliance? All compliance is it's not some fancy way of doing things. All compliance is you have a set of rules that you must follow, and compliance is ensuring that you are adhering to the rules that were given to you. That's all it is. So determining whether or not you're being compliant depends on what compliance rules you are following. But security scanning and compliance. This inspector allows you to make sure that you are staying compliant, that you are following certain rules that have been laid out for you, making sure things are good to go. And it also does scanning as well to make sure there are not any issues. The way that it works is you install this as an agent on in general in EC2 instances. You scan and collect that data, and then you can report on it. So you're collecting metrics, you're collecting scanned information. It generates these grand reports, and it's kind of helpful because I don't know who's in the government world, but you probably have dealt with something called a CISO, a security systems officer or something like that, where they are the ones bringing you documents and ensuring that you are, making sure you're checking off these certain boxes and things. Inspector can automate a lot of that for you, and you can get a lot of that information yourself. You can follow certain sets of compliance lists. There's a whole lot of different ones out there that there's a bunch of different benchmarks that you can follow to make sure that you're compliant on certain things, especially in the government space. But Inspector will help that out. Yes, it can. KD, 100%. It can tell if your instances are patched against currently listed updates and things like that, and also if you are exposed to certain CVEs. Yep. And yes, Inspector is for EC2 instances. Correct. Very long gift, 100%. But Inspector Gadget. See, hey, I know all the theme songs. One day we'll combine them all together. We'll do a theme song showdown. It'll be great. But yeah, all those different benchmarks, ATO, CIS benchmarking, all that other stuff. It's all in there. It's all there. You can follow whichever ones you need to follow. You can connect them up to your account and make it happen. But like I said, all it is simply an agent that you get installed on your EC2 instance. It does all the fancy work for you based on what you chose that you wanted to be compliant against, and gives you some readouts. It allows you to do some reporting, allows you to get some cool graphs and things like that. Makes it pretty easy. An example of inspectors. I'm not sure what you mean there, Pikeman. What do you mean by an example of an inspector? Other inspector programs. So maybe more like there's a lot of security scan tools out there. Things like, so a lot of these are common in the government because the government is the only person who does this and the way they do it. Like there's stuff like Nessus that does vulnerability scanning. Think about any vulnerability scanning tools that you've ever used. They probably provide similar functionality. And again, determining whether or not, there are issues on the system based off of a database of CVEs and some other stuff, and tell you if you're good to go or not. So yeah, I'm talking about specific scanners. I'm just talking about this. I'm talking about this specific one inside of AWS. It's called AWS Inspector. And actually, let's log into AWS so we can see some of these things while we're talking about it. Again, a lot of them don't make a ton of sense if we don't have anything to put with it. But yeah, all this stuff, Pikeman, is AWS specific. So this is actually a tool inside of AWS. And so you can actually look at the services here and go to the security section down here. Where are we at? They always change it, so I don't know. So look at all this. Security, identity, and compliance. We're not going to touch all these things, but Inspector is right here. And again, it just allows you to, because we know one of the reasons why they tout this early on is because EC2 is one of the services that it's really the backbone of AWS, and it's the one that people kind of start with. So they give you some tools right up front that work with the things that you already know. And so yeah, that's why we're spending some time talking about this. All right. But it's cool. I don't know the pricing on this either. And so one of the reasons why I'll keep saying I don't know the pricing on something and I go look at the pricing, one of the things that you might have to do if you are, you're interested in diving into AWS and you want to create solutioning in the cloud, pricing is a part of that. And we're about to talk about the well-architected framework. So we're going to dive into what that means. But You don't need to memorize pricing for everything. You won't, you don't need to do that. You will eventually need to understand how you need to go calculate pricing. There are calculators that Amazon offers for you to get an estimate of how much you're going to spend and things like that. You need to understand that. But I generally will go in and, you know, if I think I need to use a service or I might need to use a service, you know, you just, you know, type in AWS Inspector, and you can start here, and it'll take you to a main page if you need to find more information about it. But then there's generally always a little tab up here where pricing will be set aside. Looks like you get a free trial with this, so that's super helpful. 250 agent assessments with host rules packages and 250 instance assessments with network reachability rules package at no cost during your first 90 days. So looks like we can do some stuff with this. And maybe we'll try to put together some security benchmarking and stuff. So you can get 250 instance assessments. So I guess 250 runs total. I wonder if it's individual instances or like a run, like a single run counts as part of your 250. That could be it. And then it starts to go up from there. You get 15 cents for the next 250, and then 13 cents for the next 750. Okay, that's not bad at all. That's not bad. I like that. Maybe we can do something with this. But it's cool. Cool little tool, cool little product that will help you get set up. So networks are going to give you information about network vulnerabilities and space, and you know what ports are open, things like that. And host assessments are going to check, you know, things that are installed, what's there, you know, what tools and packages you have. But yeah. No. I don't think it's per request. No, it's generally in blocks. Let me look at it to make sure. First 250 instances. So in the first 90 days, they'll be free. The first 250 will be free. After the 90 days are up, the first 250 will be 15 cents. Not per instance assessment price. You're right. Hold up. I think you're right. Woo, per instance assessment price. Man, they got me there. They definitely got, oh. I wonder, so I guess the question is, we need to, like, if we wanted to properly price this out to know if it hurts or not, I think we need to find out if per instance means per instance existence or per run on an instance. So you install this agent and it gathers information and again sends it off to be reported and stuff. I wonder if it is every time you run that assessment, or basically you're basically paying to put it on an instance and to set up space for that instance to be able to collect data. I'm not sure. How many are you likely to use per month? Yeah, exactly. It all depends on your setup. I have no idea. It's like a pack of instant noodles every time you run it. I mean, yeah, huh? Seriously, that's very interesting. That seems more expensive than I expected it to be. All right, here we go. They're telling us right here. We had the questions. They have it right here. If you run one assessment against one instance, that is one instance assessment. If you run one assessment against 10 instances, that is 10 instance assessments. All right, so every time you run it against an instance period is a charge here. Wow, that's a little bit more expensive than I expected, and by a little bit I mean a massive amount more expensive than I expected. Like a whole that yeah, pricing examples, they usually give me that. So for host rules, 10 assessments at 30 cents per agent assessment. Oh yeah, we don't look at the cheapest ones. 30 cent for, hold on. What is this for? Pricing for host assessment rules package. Oh my. Oh, that's just network reachability. Rules package, again, free for the first 250. So I see why there's no reason to, you got to run the whole package here. Sheesh. For host assessment, 30 cents for 10 cents adding them up. But again, you're probably not going to run this. A lot of people will run, well, it depends on what your requirements are. Everyone has different requirements. Yeah, everyone has different requirements. I have I want one day I want to sit down and have a conversation with someone who's super well versed in security, because I have a lot of questions about. It seems like what I'm seeing in the industry, or what I'm feeling, is that a lot of the things that we are expected to do with normal servers, we're attempting to apply elsewhere across the board, and we're kind of ham-fisting these solutions together to be able to give us some information back simply so that we can report on it. This is interesting to me because I would be very interested to hear how this would be expected to be used at scale, especially for infrastructures that expand and contract their instances massively and often. I just wondering about it. So we run this once before deployment, probably once after deployment. I would assume. You would want to know after you've changed things. In my opinion, so run once after deployment is probably what I would recommend. And at these prices, only run it after deployment, and don't worry about anything otherwise. Okay, that's good information. You got to look up those prices, because some of the stuff is very, very expensive. All right, so now we got Cloudtrail. Cloudtrail is a very, very important topic, and it's something very important for you to know. So Cloudtrail monitors API calls within the AWS platform. This is how you can track who did what and when. So remember, we said all AWS is, all Amazon Web Services is, all the cloud is an API layer, so a layer of software over top of infrastructure. Everything that you do in Amazon is an API call, okay? So even if you're in the console and you're clicking through and you create a service or you access something, you are making API calls, and you can track, who does what in Cloudtrail. So if you ever need to figure out who did anything, you can set this up in Cloudtrail. Cloudtrail is very powerful, but Cloudtrail certainly takes some practice to use effectively. Okay. What you do is you create these trails. You create these trails for logging. So it's basically, a trail is simply a log of things that are happening. You can log certain things. You can put them, they get kicked out to an S3 bucket. Here you can name them whatever you want. I'm just gonna, just quickly create a Cloudtrail, and we can go here to see who did what. Yes, you can see who created an instance. So in the example I said of that person who created that instance that had access to everything, and their stuff got spun up, you can go see what AWS authenticated user made the request to go do those things. So if something's happening, you're not sure why, maybe a resource gets deleted and you're unsure, you're trying to track down, maybe you have tons and tons of resources, and you've been trying to figure out how a resource got removed. Cloudtrail, if you have it enabled, you can theoretically you can go back and you can find that information out. Again, it's not super intuitive. Parsing information from Cloudtrail is difficult to do. There are a number of tools now that will help you with this, but out of the box, you won't just be able to go in and say, let me just go see what's going on in this. I haven't done anything here yet, so there's nothing I can really see, even though this is in a bucket. There's nothing in here right now because I haven't done anything, but it can be tough to see. Yeah, we're about to talk about Athena 100%. There are tools that allow you to see this information better and to access the information and parse the information better. But by default, it is not a great experience to find out what happened. You can go to event history and see some stuff that happened. So, I can see this event name. I probably shouldn't show you this, but I'm just going to leave it right here so you can see it. It gives you some JSON record of what happened. I don't know what information's in there, so I'm not going to show it to you. But, I don't think it's going to show like IP addresses and things like that, but, we're just going to keep it right here. And yeah, you can just kind of see different things that happened in here on the 12th. I don't know what happened on the 12th, but you can see stuff. It's super helpful. Insights, I think Insights is, I think Insights is another tool that you can use to make sense of the data that you're getting back from Cloudtrail. Because again, those are just logs. They mean nothing. It's just data. I think Insights helps you to be able to aggregate that data and try to make decisions based on it. But yeah, I don't use. The problem with Cloudtrail is generally you're only going to use it when you need it. You know, you're probably not going to ever look at Cloudtrail data just to kind of check on it. You're usually going to go check it out when you really need to do some forensics and do some tracing and figure out what happened. And yeah, you know, it takes some finesse to be able to use effectively. But you know, you go in, you enable it, you can create as many trails as you want, and it works out pretty well. Yeah, when you're looking at someone to fire, you know, sometimes that's true. Sometimes you got to know who to let go because of this. You know, maybe they did it on purpose, maybe they did it on accident. You got to figure it out. I wouldn't even say that, but it's, you know, one of the good things about the shift in the way that things are done is that generally blame is in the process. Blame's not really on the person, unless the person actively maliciously did something bad, deleted something, spun up a bunch of stuff for their own use, whatever. Unless they did it maliciously, if it was accidental, the issues with it really is with the process. And this helps you see that. This says, oh, hey, like this person A was able to completely delete our entire production database. Why? Like not why did they accidentally do it or how they accidentally do it? Like, why do they have access to doing that? Why was it legal in the system for them to delete this thing? We need to go back and look at that. You know, maybe we need to change our permissions to not give this person access. Maybe we need to handle these type of deployments, again, through a centralized CI process where one user is doing this or something like that. The process can solve a lot, and this can help you figure out what's wrong during that process. I feel like if you set up your organization properly with permissions, yeah, correct, they won't have access. Yeah, you are like, that is what a lot of people fail to understand, is that through security, through these different permissions, through IAM roles and groups and all that other stuff and users and whatever, you can save yourself a lot of heartache. You can be very, very specific about who and what can do what. So it's, you know, it's very interesting. I always find it weird. I think these things are changing. I think the most common one was the GitLab one. I don't know if you all remember a few years back, GitLab, I'm pretty sure it was GitLab. Yeah, it was GitLab. Someone, a junior engineer was able to like drop the main database table or something like that. Like they were able to like drop the main database and they did a public post-mortem. So they figured out what was happening. They did it publicly. They did just some calls, live streamed it, and basically were like, hey, we figured out what happened. How did it happen? It ended up being, you know, I think it was a pretty junior engineer. I actually don't think they had been there that long. And, you know, it's like, hey, like as an organization who relies on these products to make our income, the fact that we allowed this to happen is much more problematic than that someone actually did it on accident. It's pretty easy to delete everything on a system. It really, it's really easy to drop a table. It really is. So, you know, just something to know about. But Cloudtrail, don't get this confused with CloudWatch. A lot of people get CloudWatch and Cloudtrail confused because, you know, it is easy to confuse. But Cloudtrail is like CCTV, okay? It's like those closed caption security cameras that are up in the stores. You can see everyone, you know, what they're doing. You can watch the people walk through the store. You can keep an eye on things. That's what Cloudtrail is for. CloudWatch is for performance. CloudWatch is so that you can monitor the performance of systems. All right, and Cloudtrail is for you to know who and what did what. Oh, GitLab recovery. Please watch this video. Please, when you get a chance, please save that video and please watch it. Please watch how they're handling it. Watch how they're discussing it. It was really eye-opening. I think it was eye-opening for a lot of companies because a lot of companies were still operating in the paradigm of, hey, you messed up, let's find someone to blame for this. that's a waste of time. Like, it's done. Like, what's done is done. Like, don't, I mean, yeah, get to the root cause, but don't, you know, it's not about blame. It's, man, let's fix it. Let's make it so that it can't happen again, to be honest. AWS Big Brother equals Cloudtrail. Yeah, you got to know what's happening. You definitely got to know what's happening. Okay, so that's Cloudtrail, another thing that you can do for that. So AWS Trusted Advisor is a very interesting one. If you don't know about security, if you don't know if your systems are compliant, if you don't know what rules and things you should be following, if you don't know how to ensure these things are happening, you can simply hire someone to do it for you. Trusted Advisor, an AWS resource, will help you implement AWS best practices. So not just security practices, okay? It's interesting because I actually got the opportunity to work with an AWS Trusted Advisor. Sorry, AWS. What I'm going to tell you is that this is not okay, let's take that back. Before I say this, let's split out what the goal is here. The goal is for you to understand that you do have access. If you are working at a company and y'all were trying to implement these things and you wanted to be confident that the way that your stuff is built is following good AWS best practices and following popular paradigms that are going to be beneficial to you, following security paradigms, you can hire a trusted advisor from AWS. All right. It'll be a real person or real people. You do get some of the core features for free. I'll go to Trusted Advisor. There's a checklist that helps you out with some of these things. Full Trusted Advisors are only for business and enterprise users. I find this to be very interesting because, in my opinion, organizations are going to have engineers, organizations who are going to be willing to pay this kind of money for a trusted advisor are going to have the kind of money where they have pretty decent AWS engineers, and they're already likely going to be familiar with most of these things. From when I was able to utilize a trusted advisor, they took us through a well-architected checklist, basically, of things and kind of just asked us random questions that I did not find particularly useful, to be 100% honest. They are very familiar with those AWS best practices, which may be helpful because you may be someone who is a good architect, has dealt with a lot of infrastructure, but don't really know about the inner workings of AWS, and you don't know about some of the things that may be able to help you. Sure, but I found it to be less than a stellar product. But the hired trusted advisors, you know, it is what it is. Now, the core features, again, it's kind of just a checklist. And let me go back in. Maybe it's changed, but you do get some trusted advisor stuff for free. And again, it's not just for security. We're talking about security tonight. It does do some stuff for security, but it does give you some performance and optimization. But it's basically, like I said, a checklist of best practices. All right. And it's just like, hey, are you using these things? You know, are you doing this thing? And what the problem is, here's a problem. Everyone's application is built differently to do different things. And there's often a number of reasons why best practices are not always best. Let me be very clear about that. I really dislike the term best practices, but I'm not sure. Maybe I would say recommended practices rather than best practices. Actually, that's definitely what I would like the term to be changed to. These are the things that AWS recommends for you to do to be able to utilize their services as efficiently as possible. That sounds good. And in most situations, this probably is the way to use something. But everyone's setup is different. Everyone's usage is different. And sometimes you got to work outside of these bounds to actually get the best performance or the best reliability. I've seen it a number of times. And when you go through the trusted advisor, like I said, you get a lot for free. You get some checking on, you know, if you're doing these things or not. In my experience, the paid trusted advisors take you through a more interesting checklist that has a bunch of stuff on it. See, look, they make you upgrade to get to these other recommendations. Like, bro, like these, I could find all this information anywhere, to be honest. If you click on them, they don't just do the things for you. Like, they just don't, like, it doesn't do anything for you. It does some scanning, and like you can find out information if your stuff is doing anything, but it doesn't just do it for you. You got to go implement these things anyway. So, you know, it's interesting. It is an advisor. It's a tool and a product that advises you on what might be best. you still have to work with you and your team to figure out what you want to do. Trusted Advisor is great for cost optimization. Yeah, it can absolutely be great for cost optimization. It definitely can be. It definitely can be. But again, I want to be very clear about, it's good to know AWS best practices. That's why we're covering them. They'll ask you a lot about them. It is very good to know them, but know that they are recommended practices and not necessarily the best thing to do in every situation. When third-party apps do best practice docs, feels weird, man. Yeah, I mean, it is weird. Well Architected has a tool for AWS partners to say, yes, 100%. They are very similar. They have mostly the same things in them. No, I think you can get to the Well Architected tool. I'm pretty sure you can get to the Well Architected tool, but it's not, the Well Architected tool is not, I find it to not be particularly useful. Unless you're doing something big time. I tried to do it for a workload and it just seemed kind of weird. And so I actually have never like gone super in depth with the tool itself, but we will talk about the framework tonight. And a few, actually. We're almost done with these slides. So that's Trusted Advisor, good for you to know about. But that's about it there. You probably won't use it. Now, Athena. Athena is not a security tool inside of Amazon, all right? But we can use it. Remember, we talked about Cloudtrail being pretty problematic to parse and to understand what's going on. Athena is amazing. Athena is absolutely, it is, again, there's definitely a learning curve to it. It's not the easiest product to use. It's not you click around on a couple buttons and you're up and running, but it allows you to use SQL. So structured query language, think RDS, think database, think MySQL, think Microsoft SQL, think SQL, okay? That SQL. You can use that to query data that's in S3, okay? So S3, what do we talk about? S3 is simply an object store, okay? It's object storage. That's all it is. And we can actually use that to query data inside of there. You just saw that our Cloudtrail stuff goes to an S3 bucket. Excuse me. All right, so we can put together SQL queries to be able to parse information out of there. It's very interesting. I have no idea how it works under the hood, but it is, it's very, it's very interesting. Like really, really good. It's also good. So you can also put CloudWatch data, all logging information, VPC flow logs, haven't learned about those yet, but all the major kind of logs that you can use to get good information that you collect, you can stick those in S3 and you can use Athena to parse those things. And it is, it's amazing. It really, really is amazing. I would really like to get an understanding of what they're doing underneath. I really want to know what they're doing. It's pretty interesting. Definitely check out Athena. It's phenomenal. S3 is a place, I understand why they made this. S3 is used because of S3's reliability and speed. It's heavily used for the collection of information. A lot of data goes into S3, you can save there. And being able to look through and understand what is there is, I gotta give Athena a big plus. Like it's something that I highly encourage you to check out. Again, not super useful to us right now because we don't actually have any, we don't have any data in S3. We could put some data there and do some stuff, but it is, out of the box, it's really, really good. And helpful for a lot of the security paradigms that we're talking about, particularly Cloudtrail. So just something you may want to dive into. They might ask you on the exam what Athena is good for, and just all I want you to know is that you can run SQL queries, structured query language queries against data inside of S3. Super helpful. And Macy. So the only reason I'm talking about Macy here is because they've started asking about Macy on the exams. I don't know much about Macy at all. I've never used Macy in my life. I never even heard Macy be announced. But Macy is a security tool. It uses machine learning to discover PII. Very important for you to know what PII is. It is personally identifiable information. So things like birthdays, things like credit card information, things like names and stuff, like, well, maybe not just names alone, but it helps you discover whether or not that information exists inside of your data. It helps you to either get it out or to figure out what you want to do with it. Super helpful. Why do you think they asked this for the exam? Macy? I don't know. I don't know why they've started asking about Macy on the exam. I mean, I think this is something powerful. Like, I think this is something that's useful. A lot of language frameworks have some type of tool for you to be able to do this, to be able to automatically search your code for what might be PII, API keys, things like that. Python has one called Perot. There's a bunch of them that allow you to do this, but I actually don't know what Macy looks at. So let me actually see if we can find out what Macy looks at. Macy is also sort of easy to confuse with Athena, both being women name searching data related. That's fair. The services are already hard to parse in AWS. That's something amazing to call out, to be honest. Because I think that if I wasn't already so familiar with Athena, yeah, it might have messed me up a little bit. Classifies and secures your business critical content. Let's see. Discover and protect your sensitive data at scale. Again, this is mainly around that data. So continual evaluation of your Amazon S3 environment. So it looks like you continuously scan or take a look at your S3 to determine whether or not there is PII information present there. And it looks like the idea of it is not only that, but the scale of it as well. So probably lots of data. And specifically, they're calling out data security here. All right, they're calling data security. Great, but that is what Macy is here for. That's why I broke it down into ultimately uses machine learning to discover personally identifiable information. They want you to make sure you can do that. Okay, Atoda, thank you so much for the tier 1, 3 months. That's love right there. Let's drive by, say hello. I appreciate that. Y'all doing any gaming tonight or tomorrow, Atoda? Let me know. I'm finally coming onto the other side. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this first part of the year has been wildly busy for me, which is good as a business owner. It's been wildly busy, but I certainly didn't expect it. And I definitely stretched myself thin, and I'm kind of coming to the other side of the major amount of commitments that I had at the beginning of the year. So super helpful. Exclamation point slides. We'll give you the slides if you need it. Give you a warning if a log file or common error is dumping someone's birthday, for example. Yeah, which is super duper helpful to know. I'm not gonna lie, for compliance reasons, for security reasons, these things are things that you need to do. I bet this is also super helpful. They probably created this tool as well they're probably trying to do much more things to become more HIPAA compliant and things like that. They're probably trying to put in all the stuff to make you be able to do some more work with the government. That sounds pretty cool. Definitely pretty cool. Community gaming tonight. I'll check it out. Got to keep that work up. I feel you. Yeah. Jackbox, that's dope. Yeah. Yes. Yes, I will. 8 what time? 8 p.m. Oh, Pacific time. I see you put the time set there. Perfect. I'll be done by then. I'm with it. I'll give me some nice food. I should be able to hop on. I might have to, got to spend some time with the family. We'll see. Maybe my wife, maybe she'll play some games too. We'll see. I missed a ton of follows. I'm sorry about that. But I am gonna get Julty. Welcome to the channel. It's good to have you. Deshinzio, welcome. Good to have you as well. Benji Jovial, thank you so much for the resub. That's love right there. Coast to 95. Stable, good to have you. Bufferheads, welcome. What's that? Praetorian Archangel, I love it. Y'all have such good names. Melker, good to see you. RC Scathe or RS Scathe. R Scathe. I'll go with that. Bridler, Bird. I tried it a million times. Didn't work. Now we're done. But welcome to the channel, everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for the follow. Drizzle Cloud, welcome. Pikeman, so glad I earned your follow. Is buying a System 76 Meerkat worth it? I love System 76. Let me start with that. Worth it depends on what you're trying to do. The Meerkat is simply an Intel NUC, but yes, I think so. I think the experience of my System 76 machines have been phenomenal, but it's important to know what you're getting though. It's important to know what you're getting. You are paying for the software. You're paying for the support, the software and the support. So you're paying for custom drivers and firmware so that your machine is just going to work. And you're paying for, if you need something to be done about the software or your hardware, that you can get some good support. As long as you understand that, System 76 is an amazing company. They're really good. I really enjoy them. I have some of their products. I will likely buy more System 76 stuff in the future. But yeah, it's dope. If you want to save money and don't mind the extra labor, yeah, and don't mind actually agree to this. If you want to save money, it's not a good choice to go with. You can build your own. You can build your own NUC style system for much cheaper. And their operating system has been open sourced. I mean, it is open source. You can go grab Pop! OS, which is my preferred Linux desktop distribution. I love Pop! OS. Come on, they give you things. Linux fractional scaling, y'all. Fractional scaling is a big deal. So you know, now we got 4K monitors and stuff. It really sucks. Even if you're on a 1440p monitor and at 100%, everything might be a little too small at just 100%. Before you could only go from 100% to 200%, and then everything's too big and you lose too much of your screen real estate. It's pointless to have a 1440p monitor. 4K, it's okay on 4K, but now they have fractional scaling, which they implemented, which is amazing and works well. That used to be a huge problem on Linux. They've given a ton to the Linux desktop market, so I will support them just for that. To be 100% honest, but if you have a little, if you don't mind spending the extra money, I do think their products are good products and they're a good company. Their support is actually amazing. But yeah, Pikeman, it's a company. They don't make Linux laptops. They do make Linux desktops. They have an open source desktop. Okay, it's called the Thelios. Phenomenal. That is their product. I really want to buy a Thelios, but I have no need for a Thelios right now. But I would love to buy one because that's one that they made. They do not make their own laptops. They use Clevo or Sega laptops. They're licensed Chinese laptops. They're well made, surprisingly well made. They choose really good models, but that's what it is for now. Okay, that is the last bit of a dedicated security tooling we're going to talk about, or security services. So there are a ton of security services here. Not super important that you know them all. Try to get familiar with as many AWS services as possible, but we talked about IAM. We already know about identity and access management. That's how you determine who has access to not only your AWS environment, but to AWS resources, and what resources do they have access to, and what resources do other resources have access to, with roles and things like that, and setting up these policies to allow stuff like that. Resource Access Manager, don't worry about that. Cognito, if you're wondering, you don't need to know much about this for the Cloud Practitioner cert or anything about Cognito, I don't think. But Cognito allows you to do, this is how you can set up some so authentication. If you're trying to set up authentication pools for applications, it allows you to do identity kind of management and federated user logins and things like that. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool tool to use, but again, that's a little bit more advanced. You will need to know that for things like the developer exam. Understand at least what Cognito is. You won't really need to know how to use it yet for any of that stuff. We talked about Secrets Manager already. Super helpful. If you need to be able to pull secrets at runtime, you need to be able to store and rotate secrets. Secrets Manager allows for that pretty easily. We talk about Inspector, which is an agent that you can install on your EC2 instances that kick out data about compliance and their security setup. We talked about Macy a little bit. Yeah, there's a bunch there. I'm surprised at everything they throw in here. I'm actually surprised Certificate Manager is here. That makes sense. So if you ever want to, we'll talk about SSL certificates one day, not today. We talked about WAF and Shield, Web Application Firewall, and Shield is for DDoS attacks. And yeah, there's a couple other things in here, but all you need to know, the things that you need to know about early on in your career are these things, or at least be familiar with, to especially take the Cloud Practitioner exam. are the things that we dove into here. Definitely the shared responsibility model. Make sure you understand the shared responsibility model. Make sure you understand IAM. You won't get any specifics about Shield, but they might ask again what tool is useful for DDoS, stopping DDoS attacks or something like that. Knowing AWS Shield is a solution for that is helpful. We talked about WAF for your web applications. We talked about Inspector as well. Cloudtrail is important. Make sure you know, make sure you're like, Cloudtrail is an essential service to me. Cloudtrail is an essential service for you to know exactly what it does. To know that if I need to find out, what user did what, and one, realizing that you have to enable these trails first. Two, knowing that you can use this thing to find that information out. Also knowing that you can use Athena to be able to parse information out accordingly. There's also some cool, there's some cool things you can do. There's a couple of command line tools. There's an AWS logs command line tool that allows you to do some stuff with AWS logs and gives you some tools to parse via the command line. Or if you're just a monster data parser via the CLI, you could do that as well, but might be a little bit more tough. Athena is pretty dope for that. Cool. There we go. So now we can dive into the AWS well-architected framework. This is going to take up the rest of the time for sure. We are going to go through this slowly, and there's gonna be a lot of information here. We're gonna fill in a lot of gaps here from your AWS knowledge. Yeah, it's gonna be we're gonna have to fill in a lot of data and talk about how you do stuff, how you get stuff deployed, how do you, what are people using AWS for? How are they using it? What is, we talked about some of the deployment models and things already, but we're gonna try to contextualize some of that tonight with the well-architected framework. We're not gonna use the well-architected tool because we don't need to use the tool. It's a framework, all right? It's a set of proposed rules and ideas for doing certain things. There's a bunch of white papers on the different models, different paradigms, because this is such a big topic, actually. There's so many different ways you can architect an application on AWS. But talking through this, they ask some things about this on the exams, but you won't need to know a lot of specifics about it. But it is I do like the framework. Again, I also like that they called it well architected rather than like best architected. Because again, you're gonna have to deviate from this some in your time. But let's see where they have they have like a whole white paper for this. Let me see if I can get to it. Let's go to the 5 pillars. Let's go on this page right here, and I'll share this with you. Then we'll get some water, because this is going to be a lot. Or maybe it's not, but it is. It'll be a lot. We'll get through it fast, though. I drank too much too fast. Ooh, that was refreshing, though. Not going to lie. Ooh, we did it. Only good architecture framework. I mean, yes. Adhering to a lot of these rules does really help your use case a lot. May 18th. So this is a blog that was written, but I find this to be helpful for us to go through. I found this the other day, and I like the way that it has the information listed out. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the information. We'll start drawing some stuff out. We'll start talking about some concepts. Again, some of you may be familiar with all of these things. Some of you who are just here for only the AWS stuff, and this is your first time diving into AWS, you're probably not going to be familiar with most of these things. So we're going to try to fill in the gaps here on that. So 5 pillars here, and we're about to dive into all 5 of those pillars. The very first of which is operational excellence. All right. And the key word in operational excellence is operational, more so than excellence, to be 100% honest with you, but operational excellence. I'm going to read it. I'm only going to read the little thing here, and I'm going to break it down to you. Operational excellence pillar. All right. One of 5 pillars includes the ability to support development. That's very key. The infrastructure that we are writing, the infrastructure that we're creating really all of it, all this cloud infrastructure, it is to support development. It's to support software. It really is. All of it. That's what it's here for. It's to support development and run workloads effectively, gain insight into their operation. So that's knowing what's going on. Continuously improve supporting processes and procedures to deliver business value. You can find prescriptive guidance on these implementations here. So this pillar of the AWS well-architected framework is the making it run part. It is the ops part of DevOps. It is what your system admins are doing. It is this is what the operational excellence is. How are we running the things that we have? How are we running the resources that we have? How are we operating while utilizing these things? And this part of the well-architected framework kind of gives us guidance on how to do that effectively, how to manage our resources effectively, how to manage them efficiently, and really how to understand what's going on so that you can make the best decisions while you're doing things in the cloud. So we've got a white paper here. Amazon releases these white papers all the time for everything. They're pretty boring reads, but they have lots and lots of amazing information in them, but they're boring. I have not taken any of the professional level exams yet, but excuse me, I drank that water fast, that messed me up. Everyone tells me that the white papers are what will help you pass. Like, you can learn the stuff, but I heard the white papers help you pass. There are tons of them, at /white papers. I think you can go to aws.com/white papers and it'll allow you to see all of them as well. But it's helpful. It is helpful. They're not fun reads though. You got to be in the mood to read them. Yeah, a lot of information. I agree. They are seriously long. That's why we're not gonna go over the white paper, but there are white papers for each of these pillars if you'd like to dive into them. These ones, I don't necessarily know if I recommend all that much to dive into. I think what we talk about tonight should be helpful enough, but yeah. Well, architecture framework, common sense stuff with our own terms and longer words for you to memorize and test. So yes and no. Yeah, I do agree. I would change the word common sense because again, I think that there are so many layers to what you would need to know to run an efficient setup. I'm not sure I consider it common sense. I do think it's relatively simple. But again, I think there are a lot of layers. As you'll see when we go into just the design principles here, there are a lot of layers here. So 5 design principles for just this operational excellence. So what are some design things that we can do? How can we design the way that we interact with AWS to be able to ensure that we are that we can achieve operational excellence? Well, the very first one is to perform operations as code. All right, and we've talked about this a bit, and we currently are in the we're currently practicing this week in pipelines. All right, so we got a couple different things that we should look at right now with that. Performing operations as code. Let's go back to our screen here. This is not just infrastructure as code. Again, operations as code. So we can use code nowadays to do just about everything. And right now, you are likely thinking, oh, I need to learn how to program. Okay, I need to know how to program. While recommended, not required, for you to learn how to program. Code is because AWS is an API. What they're saying here is when you go to perform actions inside of AWS, we recommend that you design this in a way that you are doing them via a codified method, generally through we're hoping that you do it through a programmatic method. So remember in IAM, when we were giving people access, we had console access, we had programmatic access. This could be utilizing, this could just be, it could just be bash scripts. So like, it doesn't need to be anything crazy. It could be a bash script to interact with the AWS CLI. It could be something utilizing now one of the various tools that we can use for provisioning. So these are the 3 pillars of IAC. So infrastructure as code. Scripting is one. There's provisioning. And there's config management. And actually, let me pull this up. Config management. Let me pull up the slides for this, because I think, again, this will be more helpful. A lot of you probably are familiar with this, but again, this is the apprentice level course. There are people here absolutely not familiar with these concepts because they're only here for this AWS stuff. Let me go to infrastructure as code real quick. Let's take a look, because this is very, very important. All right, so infrastructure as code. This is literally utilizing code to be able to create infrastructure and its configuration. Some of the reasons you might want to do it is because it allows you to set something up once. So you write some code that says, hey, I would like a server or service set up in this way with these different configurations. And you write it once, and it allows for a consistent and reusable way for you to deploy this thing, and that makes things super helpful. Humans are fallible and we make mistakes, and it's much better if you can do it it's much better if you can do it in a repeatable, reusable fashion. Configuration drift, this just means, again, the consistency comes in here. This if things do change, it allows you to set things back accordingly. Free documentation if you codify what you want. All right, so imagine if right now I told you the 10 things that I needed to make our application run, and you went in AWS and clicked on them and got it all spun up. If we needed to make a replica of this thing, I would have to you would have to memorize it and write it down and tell someone else to do it, or I'd have to remember what I said and we have to go tell someone else to do it. And if someone new joined the company, for them to know what we have out there, and how things are supposed to be, they wouldn't have a way to do it because we didn't document anything. Infrastructure via code gives you documentation. So if I can see that code, I can see what's supposed to happen. I can see how things are supposed to be. It's very fast as well, and it makes it easier to manage. Also, it allows us to manage our infrastructure. It allows us to manage AWS the same way that we manage our application code. So the way that the developers are doing things, we can manage AWS in the same way, and this used to not be possible, and it allows for easier automation. All right, but all that important, but this is kind of what I want to show you, the 3 pillars of infrastructure as code. So infrastructure provisioning, those Amazon resources, we've already seen how to do it. We talked about IAC already. When did we talk about it? When we did CloudFormation and Amazon CDK. We talked about these things already, but those 3 things are very important. So if you want to create those resources, that's infrastructure provisioning. If you want to set up how they work, how they're configured, and ensure that they stay that way, that's what we're talking about, software and server configuration management. That's what we were learning this week in pipelines. So we started learning Ansible. We're actually doing an Ansible workshop tomorrow because we couldn't stream on Wednesday. So you can come on through if you want to learn some of that. And scripting. All right, so when the well-architected framework tells you to perform operations as code, this is what they're talking about. All right, they're talking about that, and they're talking about utilizing any number of these tools. So again, utilizing something, well, we're talking about Amazon tonight, so utilizing something like CloudFormation, and maybe utilizing something like OpsWorks, because you don't know about OpsWorks yet, but it is an AWS tool. It is Chef to configure some things. Whatever you need to do, anything you need to create, they're basically trying to lead you down the pipeline of doing it via code. There are also ways of doing it where you're not interacting programmatically. You can paste code into Systems Manager to submit scripts to EC2 instances and things like that. So, that's the goal. That's what they're trying to tell you with this first part of the pillar and your design methodologies. Gotta head off tonight. Have a great one. Peace out, Luke. Tomorrow it is at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So 10 a.m. It's always in the morning. So we would normally do, I think tomorrow's supposed to be office hours, but unfortunately we can't do office hours because of that. Where's the secure coding practice? I think because they're talking about specifically the infrastructure here, it is what it is. It's what it is. All right, so make frequent and small reversible changes. So this starts to dive into iteration and some of the things that we've been talking about in pipeline. So small and reversible changes. So, you know, making sure that you're not doing these big sweeping things that cannot be reversed. So being able to design things that are done in a small way that you can reverse. This is particularly useful when you are utilizing a provisioner or utilizing some type of provisioning tool like Terraform, like CloudFormation, like CDK, because usually you have some methods for rolling back or changing what you did create. But this is, I really like that they call out frequent and small here. Those are two. I did not do frequent and small. Okay, reversible. Yes, great. I'm glad they have that in there. My thoughts on reversible are that if you do number one, number two is not that important. Reversible is not that important if you do number one correctly. If you have consistent way to redeploy the thing and you make a change, you can always get back to where you were, even though there might be some downtime, whatever. But reversibility, important. They want you to do it, but frequent and small. So don't set up your code. Don't set up your architecture in a way that you need to make big sweeping changes. You can't always avoid it, but doing your best to avoid it really does help. Why do you need to do this? It makes the operation of it much simpler. It gives you much less heartburn when you go to do deployments. You know, it makes it so that you can you end up moving a lot faster as well when you're making a bunch of small changes rather than one big sweeping one. But again, it's about the way that you're operating. It's the way that you're handling this thing, and small, frequent, reversible changes are going to help you move a lot faster. Refine operations procedures frequently. Okay, all of this is just, there's just, hold on, let me get all this out of here. They're just spitting a bunch of DevOps stuff at y'all right now. They're spitting a bunch of DevOps at you. That's really what they're doing. That's why DevOps is so important, because they're just spitting that at you. They're basically putting it all here. So refinement. What does this mean? This means that you have gathered data and you have iterated. So you've gathered data, determined what was good or bad, what was good, what was bad, and you have adjusted your operations to account for the things that were problematic, in hopes of better operation in the future. Okay, and so if you go look at, you know, if you just type in DevOps, just go ahead and type it in. Type it in, head to your image tab. We get nothing but infinity loops all over the place that show exactly what they're talking about here. The little infinity loop of where we start from the plan phase and we plan out what we want. And once it's decided what we want, we code that thing out. We pass it, you know, the developers now take it on, they understand what features are being requested, what's being required of them. We code it up, we build it, we test it, make sure it's good after it's built. We release it, we deploy it. It gets out to where it's operating. Okay, and notice when we say this word operate, but we're also on the operational pillar right now, operational excellence. We're operating on this thing. Monitoring is where we're getting feedback. We're taking this information in, and that leads right back into the planning phase. We have information. We can determine if what we did last was good, if it was bad, what we can change to make things better to reach whatever goals it is that we do have. All right. So refining operations procedures frequently is taking that information and determining if changes need to be made, making those changes, and seeing how they affect what's going on. And you don't want to get set in your ways. You don't want to get complacent in the things that you're doing. Yes, there is depending on your setup, you can achieve what is an ultimate zen in terms of operational excellence, but likely you will have to continue to get there, To get there, you'll have to continually do this. Refine them over and over again. Make sure you're getting back that feedback. Check how long did it take us to deploy? How long did it take us? What was our mean time to failure? Remember we learned about CI/CD and pipelines. We didn't learn about it here, but what's your mean time to failure? There's ways that you can run tests in parallel to be able to save you a bunch of time. Instead of running 3 15-minute tests in a row, you can run 3 15-minute tests at the same time in parallel. So mean time to failure goes down from 7.5 minutes to 2.5 minutes. Okay, and so that can save you a lot of time. That can save you a lot of energy. There are lots of different ways you can improve your pipelines here. Accepting failure, this whole number 1 is DevOps right here. Accepting failure, because you are doing things small and frequently, and they're reversible, hopefully you are becoming more comfortable running into failure, and it should actually happen inherently more often. If you're deploying more, if you're kicking changes out more often, you will run into problems more often, and being able to accept those things is super helpful. Again, just like we talked about GitLab, failure is inevitable. It 100% is inevitable. Just like Thanos, I am inevitable. You know, yeah, it's inevitable. It will happen, and so accept it, anticipate it. You know, expect for it to happen, and prepare for it, because you know it's going to happen. Prepare for it, and this even goes right back up into refining your operations and procedures frequently. Your operational procedures frequently, because you know you're going to fail. What happens when you fail? There's a whole section on this below that we're going to dive into. But yeah, and then learn from all operational failures. So you know that you're going to fail, and when you do fail, make sure you can understand why, and never let a operational failure go without some change. So I think that's one of the biggest pieces they want you to know here on the design principle is, you know, we've anticipated and accepted that we will fail. There will be some failures here, but we got to learn from each of them. So something has to come out of every failure. We have to understand it, and we have to change up our process in a way that will hopefully mitigate this thing. And the only way for us to know that is to take in information and to refine our process over and over again. It all just feeds right back into each other. All right, so these things put together these design principles are very, very helpful in building out your operational excellence plan when you are thinking about architecting something in AWS. So you should keep these things in mind before you start figuring out the tools and the frameworks and things that you're going to need to build your application in. These should be the things that you're looking at before you look at those. And you should choose tooling, choose services, choose technologies that will allow you to achieve these things right here. Okay, so these should lead, the technology should follow. Best practices, I'm not really going to go into this section. This kind of just sums up kind of most of the things that we talked about just now. Read through it if you want to read through them, but it's basically just summarizing why they kicked out these design principles right here, and it'll run through that stuff. So operational excellence, making sure your operations are efficient, making sure your operations are accessible, all that stuff. Code with Sean, as a cloud architect, I completely agree. Dope. I appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that. I have a public GitHub. If you hit !GitHub, you will get to one that has a flurry of things that we've done in here. Yeah, it is a public GitHub. It is not. It's probably not where I do most of my stuff, but yeah, !GitHub. We do a lot of stuff in there. That's also where, you know, if you're a Pokemon fan, you know, you see Pokemon right there. If you're a Pokemon fan, you can get the new and exclusive Pokemon version Yeet that dropped yesterday that we wrote. You can get it from there. It's actually in the Decoded repo, the Decoded Q1 2021 repo. It's in week 7. I'm gonna make it its own repo. You know, if you're interested in playing a random Pokemon game, command line game, it's there. It has no README or anything. We need to add all that, but it is there. All right, whew, it's the last stuff here. We're on to number 2. Security. Let's think about this. And once we start to build on these, we can start to draw out some diagrams a little bit more to kind of help you see what might happen. And maybe we'll try to architect out maybe we'll think of an application and we'll think about how we want to architect it out and kind of talk about how we could take into account some of these things. Security. The security pillar includes the ability to protect data, systems, and assets to take advantage of cloud technologies to improve security. You can find prescriptive guidance on this here. So again, it gives you that white paper as well. And the white papers will give you kind of specific information on what you can use and how you can use them. Okay. This is a lot of what we talk about tonight, but let's talk about what each of these design principles are and what they mean for you and what you should be thinking about as you are going to design and implement a solution here. So the very first one, implement a strong identity foundation. And I'm hoping that now when you hear some of these things, even if you've never used the tooling, you should start to be able to think about some services that we already know about that are connected to this. And so, if you want to implement a strong identity foundation, then we probably want to be able to, utilize either, maybe they're talking about IAM. Maybe we're talking about, with our security posture within AWS and, how people are able to authenticate and what do they have access to. Could also be talking about your application as well here, where we may need to use something again like Cognito to be able to determine who and what has access to things there as well. But implementing a strong identity foundation is very important. There are entire roles for this. There really are. Let me go to let's go to Indeed real quick. And let's take off Baltimore. Identity and access management. Check that out. And again, it's not AWS only. That's what the AWS tool is called. But the role of identity and access management it's a thing. It really is a thing. You can get whole consultants here who want to help you understand how to properly keep people in and out and give people access. It is pretty interesting. I remember when I first got into AWS and I first got into utilizing AWS within an organization, I didn't understand some of the things that were being asked. I didn't understand some of the things that they were trying to implement and why you would do them. I've learned very quickly over the years on why identity and access management can be so tough. It is, again, it's time consuming, and to think it out on a bigger scale, just doing things piecemeal will have you having way more users than you need, way more groups. Things can get super messy. You can have cross pollination to where people are ultimately getting put into other places where they're only supposed to have access because they're part of one group. They end up getting put in two groups that ultimately gives them access to way more than they need access to. It's all kinds of stuff, but this in itself can be a job. So just something to think about. We know we can use IAM to do that, but a strong identity foundation, how do you ensure people know, you can find out who people are and what they have access to. DJ Mike, absolutely. I'm in Baltimore currently. Yep, been here for a little while. I'm not from Baltimore, but that is where I currently am. Traceability. What's in the world is traceability, and what tools might we use for traceability? So traceability is the ability to trace an application, a process, a person, whatever, an event. Traceability is your ability to be able to track down what something did, what path it took, what happened with a thing. And this is a pretty good tool. So what AWS services might you use when you want to sit down and you want to enable some traceability? There's a couple of them. There's definitely a few that we can kind of hop into to do that. What's up, Talent TV? Welcome to the channel. Thank you for the follow. Miss Giggle Shits, it's your name. I can say it. What's up, Miss Giggle Shits? Welcome to the channel. Dark Ninja, welcome as well. Mr. Vile, good to have you. Danny, welcome to the channel as well. And Mr. Febreze. I miss some Febreze. Febreze used to be life. I used to play football, and my football pads and stuff would stink up the car. young budding high schooler. Gotta spray down the car with Febreze. It's the only way, you know, take out my girlfriend over the weekend, you know, gotta spray it down in the Febreze. I like the Ravens. I'm not from Baltimore, so I'm not Ravens aren't my home team. My home team is the Washington football team, because I'm from down the street basically. But yeah, Washington football team is my team. I like the Ravens. I cheer for the Ravens whenever they're not playing against the Washington football team, who is, you know, pretty awful, to be honest, but it is what it is. So enabling traceability, what can you do? Traceability becomes interesting. Things like applications and stuff, you can actually enable some interesting traceability depending on how you set up logging through CloudWatch. Can give you some traceability. But Cloudtrail is your big space of traceability. Again, that CCTV, knowing what's going on, Cloudtrail is going to be what you are going to want to enable for that. But again, when they're talking about this well-architected framework, they are talking about the entirety of your application inside of AWS. So also, you know, figuring out how you're going to enable some traceability in your application itself is helpful. And, you know, that could be CloudWatch. You could throw some things in CloudWatch. You could have the ability to export some traces and things like that if you need to, but traceability and understanding how things got where. Yes, we see an error, but how do I trace what path this thing took? How do I figure out what things it touched? Traceability is super helpful there. All right. Security at all layers. Now you can start to see why we touched on some of these different concepts. Why do we ever learn about the OSI model? Well, security at all layers. How many layers of the OSI model? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, let's go take a look back at the OSI model so that you can see where this might be, and maybe we can think of some things at each level that might, you know, touch. But starting from the physical layer is, you know, generally this is going to be when you're diving into a little bit of the AWS. This is when you're going to be diving into the AWS shared security model. So in the shared security model, you know, you're not going to touch any of this. You're not going to touch that. That's, you know, this is AWS's job here. And so is this one. And generally, you know, so those two are going to be AWS's for sure. And generally, you're going to have there's some overlap. There's a little bit of overlap here, but really, your responsibility is here. But AWS gives you some tools here and up. And so this is where, you know, we saw that the tool that we stop DDoS works on 3 and 4. So this one, which was Aws Shield, works there. We saw that WAF works here. There's a bunch of stuff that works here. So that WAF works here. You know, SSL syntax layer. So this is going to be Amazon ACM. We didn't talk about ACM, but Amazon has a tool called Amazon Certificate Manager. And so this will help you out on this layer, possibly, you know, with your certificates. That's not an whoops. Not an Amazon only tool. Well, ACM is, but certificates are not. But yeah, so, you know, you might want to understand what you're going to use to be able to handle this. You might have to handle, like, you know, there's probably some ways to handle things in here. You might have to handle this with a tool. SSM is Systems Manager. Is that what SSM is? So Systems Manager, I wouldn't put anywhere on here. So Systems Manager has a bunch of tools to help you manage the system, but not necessarily secure the system. If I was going to use SSM anywhere, you'd probably end up using SSM here at the application level, because a lot of times maybe you're going to be using a parameter store to be able to pull information at runtime. You know, yeah, if I was going to throw that anywhere, I I'll probably use it. The way that I usually use it is for security layer. I mean, for the application layer of things. Maybe you could also put it here because it has session management as well. And so that, you know, that would kind of operate on, I think that would operate on this layer if you were using it in that fashion, but not necessarily a security related item. But yeah, that's probably where it would run. I hate the OSI model so much. That's fair. Their examples aren't quite accurate because we don't practically use the OSI model. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't love it because I think it needs to be adjusted for today. This stuff's still here though. This stuff is still here. Just most of us aren't talking about it. Oh yeah, session manager. Yeah, session manager will probably operate on this layer because it's you know, it's creating you know, probably operating kind of in between these two. But yeah. 5, 6, and 7 are all the same layer in practice. Yeah. Man, in practice, generally you're I want to say yes, but I think when you're really having to as far as we can tell, I think it is practically. You did say that. You said practically in practice. Yeah, I agree. In practice, I agree with you. I do. Don't they have their own layer sheet? They might. I've never seen it if they have it. They probably do though. And this can get very confusing. You know, not knowing what layer things on. It's fine. You don't need to memorize this or anything. But just know when they're saying you want to well architect something and when you want to practice security, you want to practice at each layer. Just know that generally your solutioning is going to follow the OSI model generally. Oh yeah, so if we go back to the shared responsibility model, that has to do with where security lies, what you're responsible for. It doesn't necessarily give you information about what tools and services you can use to do these things. But yeah, I mean they might, so maybe they have one that shows you where on the OSI model things happen at. But yeah, generally, you know, AWS is going to be 1 and 2, and you're going to be everything else. But yeah. All right, so make sure you have security at all layers. Automate security best practices. So we just talked about some of this, and there's actually a couple of other ways to do some of these things. So there's actually a lot of tools. Although AWS is well architected framework, yes, it doesn't mean only use AWS services and tools. You can use other things outside of it, but they have a couple things in here to allow us to do these things. So this has the connotation, one, of infrastructure as code. Anytime they're gonna say automate, anytime you see automation, you should think code. In your head, you should think code. It's not always necessary, but you should be thinking code. Security best practices. A lot of this is going to come diving into security white paper and kind of understanding the different things that you need to put in here. It's also your levels of compliance and things are going to change depending on who you work for, what you guys are working on. You know, again, Center for Information Security, and you know, there's or internet security. There's a bunch of different benchmarking programs and tools that will give you certain best practices, but automating them is super helpful. You can also, again, use tools like we saw with Inspector. You can do automated runs and things like that to get information. But yeah, following those, you know, make sure you're scanning your application code using, you know, Dependabot and all other things as well. There's just a bunch of security best practices that will help you. Don't write applications. You will make mistakes that way. That is true. That the thing is, that's true. You do need to trademark that because that is you're gonna make mistakes. If you make the application, there will be mistakes. There will be there will be places that you need to fix. Do all networks comprise of all the layers of the OSI model? How likely is it that they'll have switches? I mean, at some point yes. Not all networks around the world, but again, we're specifically talking about AWS here. So yes. it will comprise of all of those layers. Or really, yeah. I mean, I think period. I think always it will, everything that's in here will have to happen. Yeah, I mean, if it's not, yeah, you'll have to for communication over the internet or over the web. You know, all of these things, I can't see how everything in here is going to happen. Yeah. If you control it, it's your responsibility essentially. Yeah. If you can control it, it's your responsibility. That's true. So this is why TCP IP model is great. Everything that uses TCP IP, what's not working, uses it. Very true. Okay. Let's keep going with this. The security one's very, very boring to me. Protect data in transit and at rest. This is something we haven't talked about a lot yet. What does this mean? Whenever you see these words, in transit, at rest, protection, you should be thinking encryption. All right. Think encryption. When you're taking the exams and you see something, when it's talking about something in transit and at rest, it's almost always going to be referencing encryption. All right. What is encryption? Encryption is the obfuscation of data. It's the jumbling up of data so that people, if anyone were to intercept it, they wouldn't be able to read it. It's modifying data and changing it to, you know, where it has to be decoded for you to be able to read that data. The reason you want to do this is, again, so that if data is captured, it cannot be read. Obfuscation. There we go. It is a self-describing word. You know, you gotta try it out. All right. Hey, look, doesn't bother me none. Some words tough for me to say. It's okay. It's all right. But yeah, you know, I did my best. Obfuscation. Let's. If I look at it, it's easier. Obfuscation. I'm gonna say that over and over again until I say it perfectly every time. But think encryption. This one is interesting because okay. If you're new to this, obfuscate. Yeah, you know, obfuscation. I can't keep doing it. But when you see this, there's a number of places that you can do this at. You might be saying, hey, well, you know, encryption, what does that mean? What do I do? Where can I do it? Some of the places that you're gonna do encryption. All right. You can do encryption for things in S3. So we talked about S3 objects. You can encrypt those objects. There's a couple different ways you can encrypt it actually, but you can do encryption on those things at rest. So when they're sitting in the S3 bucket, they will be encrypted. Okay. You can also use Amazon ACM. So when we talk about those TLS, we talked about this a little bit. TLS certificates. This is encryption as well. So if you go to a website. Where's my mouse? If you go to, okay, you know, if you go to Mastermind, academy.mastermind.io, you know, gotta tout our own pages. You get a little lockup in the corner, okay? It says your connection is secure. Why is it secure? It is because it is utilizing a TLS certificate, okay? This encrypts the connection between the server and the client, which is the browser here. And so the data that's being transferred between the two is being encrypted. It's being, you know, all jumbled up, sent off to the other one, and then decrypted at the other end. So that it can be read, and then information, again, encrypted, sent back over, and decrypted so that each of them can read this. TLS often called SSL mistakenly. Yeah, because it used to be called SSL, but SSL's, you know, it's deprecated. Secure socket layer, no longer a thing. You know, people still call it SSL. But yeah, this TLS certificate allows some encryption to be done here, and you can get that for free, possibly, depending on how you have your domain and stuff set up through Amazon, through ACM, which is Amazon Certificate Manager. So another tool, another service that Amazon has. Again, knowing about it is helpful. If you ever need to get an SSL certificate, you can grab one from ACM, most likely. I think you have to transfer in your domain or something. But yeah, Yeah, transport layer security, think back to the transport layer of the OSI model. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, you're back to here. All right, rather than secure socket layer, which was up here. Changes everything. Well, not everything, but and they are compatible, so that's good too. If it's encrypted, what information does Comcast still accumulate about our web usage? So they can still see, you know, the data is still being transferred. They can still see things that are being passed along. They, you know, they probably can't capture a bunch of stuff in between, but they can certainly see, like, you know, how much data you're using. They can also probably see, they can see where it's going, and things like that, but they just, you know, can't see the data itself. If you know, if you're doing it, but that's also not the data that they care about. And SSL and TLS isn't always enabled for the way that the methods that a lot of people transfer big amounts of data, and especially weird data, is usually not encrypted in that fashion. They may be able to check that out as well. So it gets weird. Definitely gets weird. All right, let's keep going through this. We're making our way downtown, walking fast. Keep people away from data. I really like this one. I'm not gonna lie, I like this one a lot. This piece right here, this is the idea that you don't want people to have access to data if possible, directly to the data that you are saving if possible. Keep people out of your databases. Don't allow people to log into your databases manually. Keep people out of your S3 that's storing, you know, important information. Keep people away from your Dynamo tables. Keep them away from where the data lies. Do your best to limit access as much as possible to the data, because people will steal data, and the closer people are to data, the more opportunities you have for someone to be exploited, for them to leak something on accident, whatever. Keep people away from the data, and then prepare for security events. I really like the well-architected framework, because one thing that I think people don't talk about enough, it's one of the things that frustrates me a lot about all the conversation, everything that happened after the SolarWinds stuff. Oh, do you trust SolarWinds now? Oh, are you gonna move away from SolarWinds? Bruh, everybody about to get hacked. Everyone's gonna get hacked. Everyone's gonna get exploited. Like, this is the way the world works, you know? And yes, there are much more egregious implementations and much more egregious incidents than other things, but every time something happens, everyone has a big knee-jerk reaction. Oh, Amazon went down for 20 minutes. You know, now we're all worried about it. Does, you know, what should we utilize the service? What are the problems here? Look, man, look, things will. What do we say here? Keep prepare for security events. What did it say up here? Anticipate failure. It's gonna happen. You're gonna fail. You're gonna get, you know, there's gonna be security events. It may not be a major breach, but there will be security events. So just be prepared for it. Would you recommend VPN use on public networks? Yeah, I would. Yes, because I would, because you know what? That's actually a good question. But I would. I would recommend VPN on public networks because of where people are able to collect data on public networks. You're not always using. Yes, maybe they're not capturing your web traffic. Maybe they can't utilize it immediately. Someone brought up another good point where people are basically storing encrypted data until the day that it can be cracked. Or there's also other information that they can pull from your computer. There's also other ways for them to exploit your computer rather than just the web requests that you're making on a public network. So just be careful with that. Never give interns or junior developers access to production databases. Never give anyone access to production databases. Anyone. I never give any individual person. If anything, give a job or a process access, and give someone access to that job or process, but make sure that job or process can only do a limited number of things. It's not if, it's when. It really is when. 100%. Let's see. Run your own VPN in the cloud, you can, 100%. You can do it. You know, open VPN for the win if you want. I just pay for Nord because it was 3 years for $100. I just did it. It's helpful. It works for me. I don't like running my own DNS server. But yeah, yes, not even yourself accessing the production database. Not even you. Not even you. Yeah, no human should have access to the production database. I really do agree with that. I really do. It's a super weird paradigm at first. I actually think that no human should have access to any of your production systems, to be honest. But yeah, it takes a while to get there though. Okay, fun. We've now learned about, you know, our operational excellence, things that we can do to make sure that we can operate in an efficient and reliable manner. We talked about some security stuff now. Great. We're about to start to get into the more fun stuff. So reliability we have next, cost optimization and performance and efficiency. These next two, reliability and the performance and efficiency, these are the two that I think are the money make is where your knowledge is the true money makers here. Okay. Actually, these last three is really where people pay you. The reason why people pay you to know the cloud. All right. Reliability, performance, and cost. These three things are very important. So pay attention to these because they're super helpful. Can a VPN service access your data the same way any other network can? You're just changing who processes it in transit. That's true. You are correct about that. You are. No human should have access to production database. Don't run public DNS server unless you do a lot of research on it. Yeah, maybe DNS servers are common to use DDoS, DNS amplification. That's true. Yeah. Yep. All right, cool. Let's talk about reliability. This is where we can talk about some of the more fun stuff. This is also where we can dive a little bit deeper into AWS's offerings and what they have available to you. We've done some of this. Let's talk about it more. So the reliability pillar, it encompasses the ability of a workload to perform its intended function correctly and consistently when it's expected to. This includes the ability to operate and test the workload through its total life cycle. I really like that they put the word test in there. That's pretty cool. I like this. And there's another white paper there if you want to read it. We got another set of 5 design principles when we're creating this thing. Automatically recovering from failure. Okay, this is great. Let's go back over to our thing here. Automatically recovering from failure. This is called, there's actually a couple of things this falls into. Automatically recovering from failure falls into two places. The first one is called fault tolerance. And fault tolerance is actually bigger than that. And I think we talked about this a little bit. How well can your application hit a snag, hit a failure, and continue on? How can, can it receive a broken state and the application doesn't fall apart? Can it continue to operate even though a piece of it is broken? The reason why that automatic recovery falls under fault tolerance is because we want to be able to build into when something does happen, when a piece does break. Sure, we want our application to be able to continue, but we also want it to be able to recover as well. So fault tolerance is one. And the other thing here is disaster recovery. All right, fault tolerance and disaster recovery. How well do you recover from a failing system, a problem? So Amazon provides many different ways and methods for you to do this. I also want to be clear that in building your applications, there are things you have to account for with this as well. But even starting with something like EC2, what systems in EC2 do we have that will allow us to automatically recover from failure? So one, we have these auto scaling groups. Okay. Appreciate it, Unique ID. See you later. Have a good night. So we have ASGs, auto scaling groups, plus load balancers. So yeah, let's put that in there because I think that's super helpful. These auto scaling groups plus load balancers will ensure that we have systems that are continuously up to date, not up to date, available. It'll do its best to make sure these things are available and to have a number of them available at any given time. If you were to, so if you had an auto scaling group that expected a single server to be there and you blew a server away manually, that auto scaling group would actually replace that server. It would automatically, spin it up and run it. Now, does that mean everything's going to work fine? No, that's where they've given you the ability to replace your infrastructure automatically, but you'd have to make sure that your applications and things were set up properly for it to fully be running in an operational state. So EC2 has that ability for you to do that. So you mean I can make more money by ticking yes to backups if we have the money, read replicas? Okay, yeah. I mean, yes. People, yeah, you just tell them, hey, if you want this to be reliable, if you want to be able to recover from failure, that's what we have to do. And so actually, I was about to go through a bunch of different services and talk about what they had available to them. Someone brought, I don't think we should do that. I think we should talk about the broader concepts, but even things like RDS, because we just talked about it a little bit, read replicas. So if you have a read replica in RDS, remember, it is a replica of your main database, of your master database, and all it's used for is to read data from. No writing happens to it, but the way that read replicas work is that if the main database goes down, a read replica can automatically be promoted to the main database, okay? So there's automatic promotion there, which is great. So, if you are building your application, thinking about what happens if a database should go down, an automatic recovery. So, utilizing auto scaling groups, utilizing read replicas, and not even read replicas. They also have, not even just read replicas, but multi-AZ systems. There's a bunch of different ways. So I want you to also be thinking about things like availability zones, and utilizing multiple availability zones for redundancy can allow for easily automated recovery from failure. We can also talk about things like Route 53. Route 53 has kind of some automatic failover. So it will run some health checks and push data from one place to another should errors occur, which is great. You can push from one set of AWS resources to another. Disaster recovery is a little bit broader of a topic. It's these same things, but generally it's talking about a disaster. It's talking about something causing massive damage to your system to where it's possibly unrecoverable in a reasonable amount of time, and you needing to quickly recover elsewhere. There's a bunch of different ways to do this as well. A lot of the ways you do this is, again, multi-AZ. So multi-availability zones kind of helps, not multi-AZ. Well, you could actually do multi-AZ if you wanted. Wouldn't really help you in a disaster, but we're also going to talk about multi-region. Multi-region. So having setups in different regions and multi-regions, along with automatic DNS failover, can handle this for you. So you could set up completely identical systems in US East-West and US East 1 and US West 1. All right. And should US East, should US West, I'm near US East. Should US West 1, should there be the mother of all earthquakes and that whole place is destroyed, and that was the main setup, Route 53 can see that these things are no longer available and begin piping traffic over to US East. Great. Or it could be that we swap a little thing in our automatic provisioning to be able to spin up something in US East and provision our own infrastructure. Great. That's phenomenal. But the goal of automatic recovery from failure is has to do with redundancy and failover, or the automatic creation of duplicate resources in a system. So as you are, a lot of Amazon services provide you with this functionality pretty easily. So as you're diving into them, if it is an actual resource, take a look at what options you have for that, because it's pretty important. Yeah, placement groups as well. Yeah, placement groups determine where different systems are put, different availability zones and things. Definitely something good to know. All right. Test recovery procedures. So this is something that a lot of people don't do enough. This is very, very important. So having some automatic failover is great. It can solve a lot of problems, but it can't solve every problem. There's often going to need to be some ways that you set up, some procedures that are set up for you to be able to recover from certain failures, or to just, have in the back of your, have ready in case there is some type of catastrophic failure where your original intended automation doesn't quite work. What are you going to do? It's great for you to have those things. This could be a manual process. Your recovery procedures might be manual, fine, but you need to test those things. A lot of people do not test these things out, and when they do run into a big problem, they are not ready. They have, no one has seen these instructions for a long time, or everything has changed since we wrote these instructions. Maybe our whole infrastructure is completely different, our whole setup is different, and now it's way out of date. Make sure you are testing your recovery procedures. Okay, this is a big one. A lot of times, especially in the government, they'll do things like tabletop exercises, where it's like you're LARPing. You're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and they're like, all right, US, like seriously, like US East 1 has just been hit by a missile. Now, what are we gonna do? What are next? And this team goes through, hey, blah blah blah, let me call this person now. This person does this, and now we're going to begin running our new setup through the CI pipeline to spin up in West 1. And then you try and talk about it and figure out what's supposed to happen. Make sure you're spending some time testing your recovery procedures. Make sure you know how to get back up from when you've been put down. Trust me, you don't want to have to figure this out real time. You want to have this in place. I promise you want to have it in place. What's up, Akamonkey? Welcome to the channel. Flannel, welcome. M Jones Pro, good to have you. Neil Pointed, good to have you. Dan Cordis, sorry, not username for it. That is your username, okay? It is. Good to have you all here. Or the use of Chaos, Simian family to test production. Yes. So Abyss is talking about, this is actually great for this section of reliability. If you ever want to be confident in this, I want to know more about chaos engineering. I've done it a little bit, but chaos engineering, Abyss is talking specifically about a tool called Chaos Monkey. I like that, Chaos Simian family. Let's see, Chaos Monkey. Come on, there we go. Chaos Monkey, cool tool. There's another one called Gremlin. There's a bunch of them. Actually, oh, wait. Okay, I wonder if they have been bought. But it's cool. Oh, wait. Chaos Monkey guide for, I'm confused. Us Chaos Monkey's just the tool. I thought Chaos Monkey was a company, but Gremlin's another one. Gremlin's a whole company around these things. But what is chaos engineering? And chaos engineering solves, or maybe not solves, when you are thinking about how to architect these things, chaos engineering helps you understand your recovery procedures. Chaos Monkey, Gremlin, chaos engineering implements chaos into your system. So it sets up these tests. You set up these tests and these workflows where this tool will randomly shut down different services. It'll randomly shut down different pieces of your application. And the goal is that you have built this in a way it can be random. You don't know where it's going to attack next. I mean, you can configure all these things, but you want to be able to build an infrastructure that is reliable enough to stand up to that is fault tolerant enough, that has enough, that has enough redundancy to be able to handle these random, breaking of systems, these simulated broken systems. And it's pretty interesting. It is very interesting. It's a good way to know that things are working. A lot of companies run this in production at all times, just to keep the teams on their toes, and ensure, they're building in the automation to make sure these things can work. It's pretty dope. Monkey is EC2 instance failure. Chaos Gorilla is AZ failure. And Chaos Kong is the entire region. I didn't know that. So that's the Simian family. Okay, that's why he called it. That is actually a Simian family, and that makes perfect sense. Chaos Gorilla is a whole AZ failure. Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. We need to do some stuff with that. Gremlin, if you're out there, reach out. We'd love to do some stuff. I definitely want to learn more about that. I have no clue what's going on. I'm gonna go back to studying for your A+. All good. First off, if you have any questions about A+, let us know. That's dope. Let us know what's happening when you get it. It's very, very exciting. Pretty helpful. I think Gremlin is their own implementation of chaos engineering inspired by Netflix. Yeah. Because they're a company, I always see them sponsoring different conferences. So, hey, if you got some of that sponsorship money, Gremlin, head over here. We'd love to implement some chaos into our workflow. Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool to do a project to see, how, it might be really cool to build the most reliable application. With the only goal, our application is dumb. Maybe it's simply a web page that makes a call to a database, and it just says this page is up. And we make the most fault tolerant page on the internet. Maybe, I don't know. It may be fun. I mean, not the most fault tolerant, but it would be cool to go to something like that. But I'm glad you brought that up, though. There's so many different ways of going about this stuff. Scale horizontally to increase aggregate workload availability. I really like that they called this out. I really, really, really like that they called this out. We talked about scaling, and scaling is the ability to be able to increase your resources to meet the demands of your application. And we talked about scaling up versus scaling out. So scaling vertically versus scaling horizontally. Scaling horizontally is adding additional instances to the pool. So replicas of, if you want your EC2 instances to scale horizontally, I go from one EC2 instance of a certain size to 5 EC2 instances of a certain size, instead of moving up to one larger EC2 instance. I like how they call out scaling horizontally to increase aggregate workload availability, give you more targets to hit, and again, to have them be able to work together to be able to deliver. That's dope. This one's good. This is, man, they're actually reading through this right now. These are gems. Stop guessing capacity. This is good. What is this? Well, back in the day, how do we used to do this? When you needed to determine how much computing you need, again, you'd have to go online and just order what you could afford, really. Like, you'd have to order for the future. And you get it in, and most of the time that system would be underutilized, okay? We no longer have to do that. We don't need to guess at what we need to utilize. We can see how much we utilize. And a lot of people think if you were to see right now, if you were to see that your home computer was at 90% utilization, 85% utilization, that's just where it was, it would likely concern you. Or you'd probably be looking for ways to drop it down. You'd be like, I don't, that's a lot of usage. I need to get rid of that. On servers and systems like this, utilization works. Yeah, that's so the same way, but that's good. You don't want to, because you're paying for what you use. In cloud computing, you pay for what you use. So you want to be paying for what you use. You don't want to be paying extra for overhead that's not being utilized. So properly sizing instances, properly sizing resources is pretty important in AWS. or at least for cost savings. And so taking a look at what you have, and it takes a while to get here. It's not a hey, we think we're gonna have this many people. Let's pick something. Yeah, you have to start out picking kind of an arbitrary amount of resources, but then you gather data on your usage. You gather data on what you need, and you stop guessing about it, and you deliver the amount of capacity that you need, and then you also implement ways to be able to respond to capacity increases. So if you're worried about, if you say, hey, a system that's at 90% utilization all the time, while it might work most of the time, if there is a sudden spike, a little bit in traffic, it could cause problems. That's where you set up your, your auto scaling accordingly, your auto scaling rules accordingly, to be able to, set things up properly, and to be able to scale up when needed, scale down, all the other stuff. But you want to be properly capacitated, okay? You want to have proper capacity so that you can pay the proper amount of money, because money is key here. And manage change and automation. Another thing for reliability, if you want to change, things break. Things are more likely to break when you change them. All right, that's just how it works. More likely to break if you change it. So managing that change using automation is what you want to do. You want to make sure that you are utilizing that to automation to do that. Again, think back to whenever we talk about automation, I said think about code. So utilizing code to be able to make your changes allows for a much more consistent and reliable system. All right, so that's, when you're thinking about how to create something in the cloud, reliability wise, that's what you want to think of. There's plenty of ways to manage the way that you scale, manage the way that you recover from different things, to manage capacity, all these things. But at the end, you want to automate it as well. Should I blame caching? Yeah, yes, a site just like this. And yes, you should. I agree. Should you blame caching? Yes, because what's funny? Even when the problem is DNS, it's caching. It's caching, because you might say the problem's always DNS. It's cache DNS. Okay. All right. So reliability. Let's get past that. We're perfect time, and we should finish up right on time, maybe a few minutes early. So making sure something is reliable, very, very important, but performance is also key. So performance efficiency pillar. I like that they put the word efficiency in here rather than just performance. Peace out, Abyss. See you later. But performance efficiency. It's a pillar that includes the ability to use computing resources efficiently. Efficiently to meet system requirements, and to maintain that efficiency as demand changes and technologies evolve. You can find no more information. The reason why I like that they put efficiency here is because it's possible for you to make something work, perform. You can make it perform by throwing a bunch of power at it. That's something that you can do. You can throw a bunch of resources at it and it will perform effectively. Okay, enough cores, enough RAM, and it will perform effectively. But we don't want to do that. We want to, because cost is also part of this, we want to make sure these things are efficient. So we want to, that's something we definitely need to worry about. What's up, Big Mog? Welcome, Proto Man. Welcome as well. Good to have you all here. Thank you so much for the follow. So what are we talking about when we're talking about performance efficiency? What are we going to get into here? Democratizing advanced technology. This is very interesting. Does anyone know what democratizing means? And democratizing advanced technologies. This is very interesting that they put this in here. Democratize advanced technologies, okay? What they want you to do is they want you to take their advanced platforms, advanced toolings, and they want you to make it available. They want you to make these technologies, your technologies as well, available to the masses. They want you to make it accessible to as many people as possible. The reason why they want to do this, so one of the reasons why Amazon pushes efficiency so much, I think there's two big reasons why efficiency is important. Because you might say, hey, why is this an important part of what they're pushing? Wouldn't it be great if people spent more money on over over provision, maybe not even over provision, but much more horsepower than they need to be able to do these things. Democratizing advanced technologies brings some interesting light and insight into Amazon, but you pay for what you use. If they can create capacity by making your applications more efficient, that's super helpful for them as well. But utilizing these complicated things, these advanced pieces of technology that both they offer you and that you're creating, doing your best to get that out to people, it can't, it's helpful for them. I find it weird that they call this out as the first item. Whatever, it's all good. AI, ML, etc. is available to almost anyone. Yeah, it's very true. It's wild. Now you might have to pay. You got to pay for it. Might have to pay for it. But yeah, it is available to almost anyone. And the more and more you give, the more and more access Amazon gives you to their power, their services, their tooling, and the more they can get you to utilize them, the more and more we can kind of push these technologies forward, the more and more we can democratize and make them open to everyone. It's super helpful. Super helpful. Go global in minutes. This is a big deal. This is one of the biggest deals of the cloud. Every application doesn't need it, but for a lot of things that people do, they want it to be accessed by all. And developing your application, architecting your application in a way that it can utilize some of the global tooling that is helpful. One of the easiest ways to do this is simply through CloudFront. Enabling CloudFront, you can enable your application to easily be accessible globally by simply enabling CloudFront. And this is why they say global in minutes, while anyone could access your site from anywhere, ideally them knowing the IP address and things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have a global product. The experience for people in certain parts of the country is going to be much different, possibly unusable, depending on how you set things up. And so building in a way where you can take the global nature of Amazon Web Services and utilize that is helpful. Performance and efficiency, using serverless architectures. I love this one. I love this one a lot. We haven't talked about Lambda yet. We're going to talk about Lambda next week. We're actually going to do a whole Lambda lab next week. But real quick, serverless is a misnomer. It doesn't mean there's not a server. It just means you don't need to worry about that server, okay? You don't need to worry about it at all. All serverless is a paradigm in which you only worry about, you only have to worry about the tool or the service or interacting with the service itself, rather than any of the infrastructure that is a part of it. You don't have to worry about any of the infrastructure at all. You're not actually renting infrastructure during these pieces. For serverless, you're not renting infrastructure. You're paying for Amazon to run something to support what you're doing. So there's a couple of different services. So there's Lambda, which is serverless functions. So this is like me writing a little piece of JavaScript. All right, JS here. And normally you'd have to run this on a server, but instead I write this JS from my computer. I put it up into Lambda. I don't really know the little, I don't know how to draw the little Lambda symbol, the little Half-Life symbol, something like this, whatever. That's pretty. So Amazon now has my code. I deliver my code to them. They hold on to my code. And every time someone triggers my code, it'll just run my code on it's running on a server, but I don't know anything about it. And they'll just keep running my code, and I pay for when they run my code. There's also RDS, there's also containers that are serverless. ECS, Elastic Container Service. Basically, they used to just give you ECS. They'll just give you a bunch of EC2 instances and use software to be able to manage the systems on there. Serverless, so Fargate, which is serverless containers is, hey, I just give you the container I want to run. I tell you what container to run, and you go run it somewhere else that I have no idea about. I don't really care what it's running on. Just run me my container. It generally costs more to do things like this, like serverless RDS and serverless containers. But this Lambda serverless functions, very cheap. Very, 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 I don't know how many varies I can put on there, but it's very cheap, and I'm a big fan of it. I think it's gonna be pretty exciting to do next week. I think it's gonna be fun. We're writing some code. What does Linode count as in DigitalOcean droplets? I figured they're not considered serverless. They are not. So they are cloud providers. That's like they're cloud providers like AWS. Now, they might have serverless options. Let's see. What do they have? I actually don't know if Linode has serverless options. Yeah, I don't see any serverless options here. Cloud Manager. I don't see anything here. Maybe DigitalOcean. Let's see if they have anything. The developer cloud products. Compute. See all. Yeah, I don't see anything here that would indicate serverless. They probably don't have it, but it's a misnomer. But there's a couple of different serverless options that you have in here. But one of the reasons why they like serverless so much, and the reason why they're pushing serverless so much is, hold on, where were we at? Is because what this allows you to do is it allows them to charge you in a more granular way, and it allows them to be able to utilize their infrastructure in a more efficient manner to be able to make money off of you. It is very cheap. It is very cheap, but it can get you're still paying for what you use. You're paying for the time that these things are running. You're paying by the millisecond. It's pretty interesting. You get like 1 million invocations a month for free, and so people who pass that, you pay for the invocations as well. So when it spins up a serverless function, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I think Netlify is more serverless oriented, whilst Linode. So Netlify is more of a platform as a service. And I wouldn't necessarily call that serverless either, because generally the service that you're utilizing is not well. You still have like a Netlify like droplet, or like a little. You do have like a thing usually. It's interesting. That I do think that's more of a serverless feel, but I don't think that falls into the serverless paradigm either, to be honest. It is a confusing concept because there is always a server, but just not one that you have or care about. Yeah, so maybe that's a good. I actually maybe I have to sit down and think about that. It might, because maybe something like GitHub Pages. Is it a platform as a service, or is it also a kind of serverless paradigm? I don't know. Pretty interesting. Experiment more often. So I think one of the interesting things that they promote a lot is this experimentation, because they want people to be able to figure out how to utilize their services in an efficient way, so that you can write white papers, so that they can do some some studies on what you've done to be able to give other people ideas on how to properly utilize their products. People can, a lot of times people, go to what they know and they stick with what they know. That's not always the efficient option. It works and it's cool. That could work. That could be great for what you need. But experimenting with these things and setting yourself up in a way that you can experiment with more of these options, ultimately, it could help your application be much more performant, and also possibly save you a lot of money. And last piece here is consider mechanical sympathy. I don't know what that means. I have no idea what they mean here. Let me see here. Consider mechanical sympathy. I've gone through the well architected framework. I have no idea what this means. Mechanical sympathy is when you use a tool or system with an understanding of how it operates best. When you understand how a system is designed to be used, you can align with design to gain optimal performance. Okay. That, yeah, I like that. So, you know, it's basically saying, hey, you know, you're gonna experiment, but also like learn how this thing works at its best, so that you can implement these things. If you can understand how a service or a system works at its best, you can ultimately implement, you know, if you consider those things, you can ultimately implement the most performant, or most efficiently performant setup, I guess is what they're trying to say here. It's pretty interesting. I've never heard of mechanical sympathy before, but now that I know it, now that I've committed it to memory, I've added it to my repertoire, whatever. I got it in there now. I will use it because I have to use it now. And the last set here. So don't use EC2s for crypto mining. Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna get a return. You're absolutely not going to get a return. You know, that is not mechanical sympathy right there. You can do it, but it is not mechanical sympathy at all. Anyone have some good information about AWS IAM design, implementation patterns, and best practices? I've looked at AWS docs, IBM, now found straightforward answers. That's very interesting. Do you have, Rekabik, do you have a specific question around that? So design, implementations, and best patterns, again, it's going to be so wildly different for whatever you are doing. I know that's a cop-out answer. It's kind of a cop-out answer, but I think one of the reasons why there aren't a lot of straightforward answers on it is because it's ultimately going to be so different with whatever setup you are using. Like some best practices are for you to have different accounts based on, like, underneath your organization, have different accounts based on departments, and having your marketing people do things in one account, and things that are marketing related, resources and things in one account, the developers in another, and, you know, have your different departments spread out. And then utilizing each account utilizing its own specific isolated users and groups to be able to do certain things. Great, all that's great. There's also other paradigms where it says, hey, create a singular management account where we handle all permissions and access through one account, and then from that one account we assign access to other accounts through roles and things, where you can assume roles into other accounts rather than logging in with an IAM user. You assume, from one account you assume a role into other accounts, and there's so many different ways to implement these things. Like hierarchy for accessing resources, like user hierarchy. So I mean, what do you mean by user hierarchy to access resources? Like, that's ultimately determined by you all. Like by default, they don't have access to anything. And so, following what we learned earlier, which is the rule of least privilege, you only want to give people access to the resources they need to perform their job, and nothing else. That's the way you should implement the thing. So, the only person who's going to know that is you. All right, so last piece, cost optimization. Very, very important piece of what you're going to be doing. Cost makes a lot of sense. It's so complicated for a dev. I feel like my company needs to invest in sysadmin for this. Rekavik, it is complicated for everyone. I'm not joking. That's what I was saying. There are entire jobs specifically around identity and access management. We talked about that earlier. It's complicated. It is absolutely a complicated thing, and I understand why you'd want to pass that off. I definitely understand why you'd want to pass that off. It is a complicated thing for sure. All right, costs. Last thing here is we got a couple of design principles. We'll go run through them really quick. Implement cloud financial management. Okay, this is, this is a fairly straightforward first bullet point here for your designs. Implementing cloud financial management. What they're talking about is there are a number of ways to manage your resources and billing and things like that. So creating these ideas of organizations and child accounts underneath organizations and accounts specifically for billing. You can aggregate all your billing in one place, setting up budgets. We messed around and we created a budget using the Amazon CDK. And so, making sure you implement the things that are going to let people know, so that you know how much you can spend, where it can go, making sure that you have access to be able to know how much things are costing. So again, you have multiple accounts, aggregating them up to another account, to an individual billing account is super helpful to be able to follow all of that. Add a consumption model. So that has to do with your budget and creating, what resources you can consume and understanding how to do that effectively. Why do you need to do that? Not only just because you need to follow a budget because you have a limited amount of money, but it's also so that you can utilize your services and resources best. If we know that we're gonna have 10 servers running at all times, no matter what, why would we pay on-demand pricing for that? Creating this consumption model will allow us to see some things where we say, hey, let's make sure we have some prepaid instances here. Make sure we pay up front to get ourselves a nice little discount because we're going to be doing this year round anyway. Maybe some of our workloads can be pushed off to other things as well. It can really help the way that you are designing your application as well. When you're adopting a consumption model, adding a consumption model, and figuring out how you would like to consume these resources. Measuring overall efficiency. Again, this has a lot to do with utilization, speed. There's a lot of measurements you can take in here. So utilizing all that feedback that you get from the process, utilizing the observability that you have, utilizing different metrics collected from different places, measuring how efficiently your applications and the things that you've created are utilizing Amazon's products. Making sure you're not overutilizing anything, making sure that you don't have something with way too much power when you don't need it, but making sure things are sized properly and correctly. Corn, Cobb, Corb, welcome to the channel. Good to have you. All right, stop spending money on undifferentiated heavy lifting. Oh, I don't know what this means. Stop spending money on undifferentiated heavy lifting. I don't know what that means. Is this a part of the main, well, let's see. 2013, this person wrote this, eliminating undifferentiated heavy lifting. What is this? Werner Vogels. So this is an AWS related article. Werner Vogels is the CTO there. He's a pretty dope guy. He gives some pretty cool talks. Let's see. Phrase reused, especially when referring to AWS offerings, EKS and Fargate. In terms of line, providing product services, multiple teams. The budget for manual processing, testing, automation. This is not a, hold on. Are the words even in here? Undifferentiated heavy lifting. So cross-cutting concerns, products and features. Interesting. To me, it's term aligns with providing products and services when multiple teams have cross-cutting concerns that are not part of their products and features. Okay. Let's see if we can find one more. Same thing here, undifferentiated heavy lifting. So it seems like he used this and they literally added this to the charter because of this. Let me see. to describe all the hard IT work that companies do that doesn't add value to the mission of the company. Okay, there we go. That's a good line right there. Coined the term several years ago. It doesn't describe all that. Yeah, that doesn't do to add value to the mission of the company. Suggests that businesses should stop spending money on undifferentiated heavy lifting and acquire resources on demand. Okay, that makes sense. Stop spending money on those things. So basically, they're saying for cost optimization, stop, setting up these manual things. Stop running through and spending money on creating these paradigms of things and these implementations of things that you don't need to, when you could simply utilize a service, pay for a service that already exists. Yeah. I usually do undifferentiated heavy lifting at the gym. I agree with you 100%. But that makes sense. I think that does make sense. I've actually never, I've gone through this model before, and I don't remember this line being here, but okay. He said in 2013, so it's probably been here for a long time. I probably never know what it is every time I read it, and I ignore it. But that makes sense. Utilizing what they have, they have these on-demand services, utilizing them when in need. I think this is interesting. To me, this cost optimization is it's a maybe. It's a maybe. It's definitely a maybe here. To me, Amazon, they gave you this as part of their framework. All of their services aren't, well, it's called heavy lifting. So I guess you could argue that things that wouldn't make sense to do it aren't heavy lifting. But pretty interesting. So I think these are talking about things like, why would you want to implement your own Kubernetes clusters? Why would you want to create your own control plane and set it all up by yourself using EC2 instances, when you could spend the money and ultimately you'll probably save by utilizing our very expensive EKS control plane and run it that way? I get that. I think that makes sense. I definitely think that makes sense. Okay. All right. They should stop. They should tag this to the other article. Like, this is not a common, I've never seen this in my life. And it's pretty telling that when you Google it, all the articles are talking about Werner Vogel. Like, no one says this. Okay. I mean, maybe we'll let's bully Amazon into changing it. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but let's bully them into changing it. That's okay, good. And this is good. Analyze and attribute expenditure. Make sure you look at what you're spending, understand what you're spending your money on, so that you can optimize cost. Okay. When analyzing this will really show you where your money's, see where your money's going. See where if a lot of your spending is going to storage, maybe there's some things that you can do to solve that, especially if it's S3. Can we start to utilize intelligent tiering, or can we start to utilize, other storage classes to be able to do what we need to do to save ourselves some money? Figuring out what you can do while seeing what you're using. Understand what you're using, figure out where your costs are at, and see if you can drive them down. You should always be looking at that. Analyze it, see what you can drive down. There are new features added all the time. There are new pricing models added all the time. So you need to be constantly analyzing this, because you may be at an efficient place right now, but things may change in 2 months and there may be a better option for you. So make sure that you are seeing where your money's going and kind of understand what you can do to possibly change it. Just make sure you understand where things are happening. Make sure you know where that money's going, because AWS builds can vary wildly month to month as well. So just make sure you're keeping an eye on where the money went. Maybe there's some stuff you spent up forever ago that you don't even remember. Yeah, I always figure it out during the billing process, and it's only when I analyze it. It's only when I analyze, go in, because I have mine on auto pay, I think, and it's only when I go in and really look at what I'm spending. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've had 3 RDS instances that I never used, and they've been running for months. It's pretty trash. So these 5 pillars, okay? Operational excellence. So making sure you can do all the things, you can do all the management, all the deployments, all that stuff in a great fashion. Security, making sure things are secure. You know, we've talked about the security, the shared security model, understanding who has access to what, making sure you're utilizing the tools to make sure your applications and your infrastructure is secure, making sure you implement things for reliability, and things you can design around for reliability. Performance efficiency, not just performance itself, raw performance, but performance efficiency. Make sure you're utilizing Amazon's resources effectively and efficiently, and to utilizing. I really like this consideration of mechanical sympathy and really understanding how to use these products in the best manner, and implementing those if you are going to use them. And cost optimization, just making sure that you are getting the best bang for your buck. You know where your money is going. You've implemented things to track what's happening, so that you again can they want you to save money so that you can spend more money, or so you can entice others to spend more money. So I think that's it for tonight. It was just a little dive into security. I highly encourage you to read up a little bit more. I'm going to share this link again to the well-architected framework. The reason why, so there's a bunch of tools around this. You can go through the well-architected tool. It doesn't make a lot of sense unless you have some infrastructure that you already want to assign it against and to test things against. But there is, just like that Trust Advisor, there are some checklists and things that are a part of that tool to make sure you're hitting if you want to go through and build an application in the way that Amazon would like you to build an application. The framework, the first time I ever heard about it, it sounded like this de facto complicated thing. It really is I think someone before said it was, a bunch of common sense items. And once you've kind of learned at how Amazon wants you to do things, they've basically taken all of the things that they've been teaching you how to do, utilizing different services, and put them all into a confined structure to kind of guide how you should build an application, or how you should think about building an application. Now, it's worth noting that each of these design principles and these pillars has a million different ways you can implement these things. You can't give you a right answer, like use this tool and do this with it. You can't really do that, because you are trying, that's not how this framework works. That's not how solutioning works at all. But just making sure that you're utilizing, trying to hit the tools and things that will enable you to be able to design in these fashions and to understand these points here. So that's it. Thanks for coming through on a Friday evening. I literally every Fridays, I like Fridays, but I'm always coming to you guys directly after meetings on Fridays every time. And then I usually have work to do as well. So I'm about to go do some work. Everyone who's been waiting for YouTube stuff, all the YouTube videos should be uploaded tonight, and released tonight or in the morning, depending on how long it takes for this one and yesterday's to upload. But yeah, you'll see them. So they should be up there. Who are we going to raid this evening? Don't forget, tomorrow during the day, because we missed out on the Ansible workshop. The Ansible workshop will run tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So come on through if you want to do that. If you're part of pipelines, we'll just be running through a scenario, having a little fun, building some things with Ansible, doing some configuration management with Ansible. So we'll be writing some code tomorrow. And then we have one more week. So yeah, let's see. Let's head over to say hello to, who do we have? What coding for what? Well, yeah, so we were in the pipelines course, we were learning about configuration management. So we'll be utilizing a tool called Ansible, which is super popular in that space. And we're just writing code to configure servers and systems. We'll write code that helps install applications and things on them and confirms that they're up to date, and gets files and things installed and users and all that stuff. But it allows you to configure a server through code. So that's what we'll be utilizing. Peace out, Gromit. See you later. Let's go say hello to 100 Days of Coding, Meta Dev Girl. Let's go say hello to Meta Dev Girl, doing some web development. I always like to encourage 100 Days of Coders. We will be doing 100 Days of Code at the end of the bootcamps if anyone's interested. we kind of have a little framework for it. So keep an eye out for that as well, if you want to do it. Meta dev girl. And we're out of here in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everybody. Go, have a good weekend. Anyone who's not coming through tomorrow. If not, I'll see you tomorrow, but have a great night. Peace out, everyone. See ya later.